A millionaire sees a nurse with triplets who look just like him. What he does next is unthinkable. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Gooper Everett thought he had everything figured out. At 35, his software company generated $50 million annually. His foundation had donated millions to children's hospitals, and his perfectly ordered life ran like clockwork. But standing in the gardens of Riverside Children's Hospital on this crisp October afternoon, watching three identical little boys chase each other in circles while their mother tried desperately to corral them, Cooper was about to discover that everything he thought he knew about his life was completely wrong, because those three laughing, energetic, absolutely beautiful children looked exactly like him when he was their age. And their mother, she was the one woman he had never been able to forget. "Mason, stay where I can see you," Penelope Benson called out, her auburn ponytail swinging as she pivoted to catch Tyler before he could climb the decorative fountain. At 28, she had learned to move with the fluid grace of someone who spent her days chasing both 4-year-old patients and her own 3 sons. "Jaker, honey, help me get your brothers together so we can go inside and see where Mama works." Cooper stopped walking toward the hospital entrance, his breath catching in his throat. That voice, he would know it anywhere, even after 5 years. But it was not just Penelope that made him freeze in place like a man who had seen a ghost. It was the 3 little boys tumbling around her in their matching blue jeans and different colored t-shirts. The tallest one, wearing a green shirt, was carefully stacking rocks by the fountain's edge with the methodical precision Cooper remembered from his own childhood. Another, in yellow, was drawing patterns in the dirt with a stick, his tongue poking out in concentration exactly the way Cooper's did when he focused. The third, in red, was bouncing a small ball against the fountain wall, his head tilted at that particular angle Cooper saw every morning in his bathroom mirror. "Dear God," Cooper whispered. "Excuse me, are you all right?" Penelope had looked up from gathering toys scattered across the grass. When their eyes met, the small soccer ball dropped from her hands. "Cooper!" He walked toward her slowly, his expensive Italian shoes crunching on fallen leaves, his mind racing through calculations. 5 years since they had last seen each other. The boys looked to be about 4 years old. The timing was exactly right, and the resemblance was undeniable. "Hello, Penelope." His voice sounded strange to his own ears, carefully controlled despite the earthquake happening inside his chest. "These are your sons." The 3 boys had stopped their playing and were now standing in a loose semicircle behind their mother, studying this tall stranger in the dark suit with identical pairs of bright green eyes, Cooper's green eyes. "Boys, this is Mr. Cooper. He is someone Mama used to know." Penelope's voice was steady, but Cooper could see the slight tremor in her hands as she smoothed down Tyler's unruly hair. "Cooper, these are my sons, Jake, Mason, and Tyler." Jake, the one in green who had been stacking rocks, stepped forward slightly. He was clearly the leader of the 3, the one who asked the hard questions. "Are you here to see the sick kids too?" "In a way," Cooper managed, crouching down to their eye level. The movement felt natural, instinctive, as if some part of him had been waiting 4 years to meet these children. "My company donated some new equipment to help doctors take better care of children. I wanted to make sure it arrived safely." Mason, the artist, had been studying Cooper's face with the intense concentration he had been giving to his dirt drawings. "You have the same eyes as us." The simple observation hit Cooper harder than any boardroom confrontation ever had. Out of the mouths of babes came the truth that was written all over their faces, in the way Tyler bounced on his toes, just like Cooper did when he was excited, in the way Jake's eyebrows drew together when he was thinking, in the way Mason unconsciously touched his chin when he was curious. People sometimes look similar, Penelope said quickly, but her cheeks had flushed pink. Boys, we should go inside now. I need to show you the new playroom before my shift starts. Can Mr. Cooper come see it too? Tyler asked, his 4-year-old logic simple and direct. He helped buy it, so he should see if it is good. Cooper stood slowly, his gaze moving between the 3 little faces looking up at him expectantly and Penelope's carefully guarded expression. I would like that very much, if your mother says it is all right. For a long moment, Penelope studied him. He could almost see her weighing options, calculating risks, protecting her children the way she had been doing alone for their entire lives. Finally, she nodded. All right, but just for a few minutes. Mama has to go to work soon. As they walked toward the hospital entrance, Tyler slipped his small hand into Cooper's larger one with the trusting ease of childhood. The gesture was so natural, so right, that Cooper had to swallow hard against the sudden tightness in his throat. Mr. Cooper, do you have little boys too? Jake asked, his serious face turned upward. No, Cooper replied honestly. I do not have any children. That is sad, Mason said matter-of-factly. Little boys are really fun. We could share ours with you if you want. Penelope's step faltered slightly, and Cooper saw her blink rapidly. When she looked at him, her hazel eyes were bright with unshed tears. That is very generous of you, Cooper told Mason, his voice rough with emotion he was struggling to contain. I think I would like that very much. The automatic doors slid open, and they entered the cheerful lobby of the pediatric wing. Colorful murals covered the walls, and child-sized furniture created cozy reading nooks. It was exactly the kind of environment Cooper had envisioned when his foundation had approved the funding. This is where I work, Penelope explained to the boys, her professional voice sliding back into place. Remember, we need to use our inside voices and walking feet. Cooper watched as she guided her sons through the space, pointing out different areas, explaining what happened in each room. She was completely in her element here, confident and caring, the kind of nurse who made frightened children feel safe. He found himself remembering why he had fallen so hard for her 5 years ago, and why losing her had left a hollow place in his chest that no amount of business success had been able to fill. The new equipment your foundation donated is already making a huge difference, she said quietly as the boys explored the play area. The digital imaging system has cut diagnosis time in half, and the new monitoring equipment is so much less intimidating for the children. I'm glad to hear that. Cooper was watching Tyler help Mason reach a toy on a higher shelf, the natural protectiveness between the brothers obvious. Penelope, we need to talk. I know. She did not look away from her children, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. After my shift ends. There is a coffee shop 2 blocks east of here, Sunny Side Cafe. Can you meet me there at 4 o'clock? I will be there. Boys, time to go, she called. Mama needs to change into her work clothes. As they gathered at the elevator, Jake tugged on Cooper's suit jacket. Mr. Cooper, will we see you again? The question was innocent, but it carried the weight of 4 years of missed bedtime stories, scraped knees he had not kissed better, and first steps he had not witnessed. Cooper looked at Penelope, who was watching him carefully. I hope so, he said honestly. I would very much like to see all of you again. When the elevator doors closed and he was alone in the lobby, Cooper pulled out his phone to cancel his afternoon meetings. His assistant's voice seemed to come from very far away as he explained that something important had come up. something that could not wait. For the first time in 10 years, Gooper Everett was about to put something ahead of business. And for the first time in 5 years, he was about to find out what it felt like to be a father. At exactly 4 o'clock, Gooper pushed open the door of Sunnyside Cafe and spotted Penelope immediately. She had changed from her colorful scrubs into jeans and a soft blue sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in its practical ponytail. She looked younger this way, more like the woman he had fallen in love with 5 years ago. She had claimed a corner table where they could talk privately, and she already had a cup of coffee growing cold in front of her. When she saw him, she gestured to the chair across from her. "Thank you for coming," she said as he sat down. "Thank you for agreeing to talk." Gooper signaled the waitress for coffee, then turned his full attention to the woman across from him. "Those boys are mine, are they not?" Penelope did not flinch from the direct question. "Yes." The simple word hit him like a physical blow, even though he had known the truth the moment he saw them. Hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that observation could not. "Why did you not tell me?" His voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the hurt underneath. "I tried." Penelope wrapped her hands around her coffee mug as if she needed its warmth. "When I found out I was pregnant, I called your office 6 times. I left messages with your assistant. I even wrote a letter and had it delivered by courier to your building." Gooper frowned. "I'd never received any messages about you. July of 2019 was when your company was negotiating that major acquisition in Singapore. Remember? You were traveling constantly, and when you were in the office, you were in back-to-back meetings for weeks. Your assistant told me you were not taking personal calls." The memory came back to him slowly. The Henderson Group acquisition had been the deal that pushed Everett Technologies into the big leagues, but it had consumed 3 months of his life. He had barely slept, let alone dealt with personal matters. "I should have tried harder," Penelope continued. "But I was 23 years old, I was scared, and I was also proud. When I didn't hear back from you after multiple attempts, I assumed you either didn't care or didn't want to be bothered with complications. A baby would not have been a complication," Gooper said quietly. 3 babies definitely would not have been complications. 3 babies? Penelope's eyebrows shot up. "How did you know they were triplets from the beginning?" "Lucky guess." Gooper allowed himself a small smile. "Also, I may have done some research on identical triplet statistics while I was waiting to talk to you." "Of course you did." There was fondness in her voice now, the first real warmth he had heard from her today. "You always were thorough." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of 5 years of missed communication settling between them. "What made you decide to raise them alone?" Gooper asked. "Necessity, mostly." Penelope's smile was rueful. "By the time I realized you were not going to call back, I was already showing. I had a good job offer here in Riverside, better pay, lower cost of living, and my aunt and uncle live about an hour away. It seemed like the right choice for building a stable life for the boys." "You have done an incredible job with them," Gooper said, and he meant it. "They are happy, healthy, obviously well-loved children." "Thank you." Penelope's eyes brightened with pride. "They are the best thing that ever happened to me. Even when Tyler decides to paint the bathroom walls with toothpaste, or when Mason tries to give the neighbor's cat a haircut, or when Jake asks me 14 questions about how elevators work before 7 in the morning. Gooper found himself laughing, a real laugh that felt good in his chest. They each have such distinct personalities. Jake is my little scientist. He wants to understand how everything works, and he remembers every answer you give him. Mason is my artist. He sees beauty everywhere and wants to create something beautiful every day. Tyler is my athlete and my comedian. He can make me laugh, even when I am having the worst day. And you handle all three of them by yourself. I have help, Penelope said quickly. My aunt watches them when I work late shifts, and they go to a wonderful preschool during the day. But yes, most of the time it is just us. Gooper studied her face, noting the faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the way her sweater was slightly worn at the cuffs. She was working hard to provide for their children, and she was doing it without any support from him. I want to help, he said. I want to be part of their lives. Gooper. Penelope leaned forward, her expression serious. I need you to understand something. Those boys have never had a father figure disappear from their lives because they have never had a father figure at all. If you decide you want to be involved, you cannot change your mind in 6 months when the novelty wears off or when your business gets busy again. The novelty will not wear off, Gooper said firmly. Those are my sons. I missed the first 4 years of their lives, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. But I do not intend to miss another day if I can help it. Penelope searched his face for a long moment. They will have questions about why you were not here before, about what this means for our family structure. What do you think we should tell them? The truth, in an age-appropriate way, that we cared about each other once, that sometimes grown-ups lose touch, and that now we have found each other again. Gooper nodded. How do you want to handle this? Visits, scheduled time? Slowly, Penelope said immediately. They need time to get to know you, and honestly, you need time to get to know them. Being a parent is not something you can learn from books or business plans. I'm a fast learner. I remember, again, that hint of warmth in her voice. We could start with weekend visits. Maybe Saturday afternoons. You could take them to the park or the children's museum, places where they can be active and you can see how they interact with the world. I would like that. Gooper pulled out his phone. This Saturday. Penelope stood up, gathering her purse. Gooper, they are good kids, but they are still 4 years old. They will test boundaries. They will have meltdowns, and they will ask you uncomfortable questions at inappropriate times. I will figure it out. As she walked toward the door, Penelope turned back. For what it is worth, I think they are going to love having a father. They have been asking me lately why some kids have daddies and they do not. After she left, Gooper sat alone at the table for another 20 minutes, his coffee growing cold as he tried to process the fact that his entire life had just changed. 3 hours ago, he had been a successful bachelor with no family ties. Now he was the father of 3 4-year-old boys who did not even know his last name yet. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. Linda, I need you to clear my schedule for Saturday afternoons indefinitely. And I need you to research the best children's museums, parks, and family activities within an hour's drive of Riverside. Is this for a foundation project? Linda asked. Gooper looked out the window at the playground across the street, where children were swinging and climbing and laughing with the pure joy that only comes from being 4 years old. No, he said. This is personal. Saturday morning arrived grey and drizzly, the kind of weather that made Gooper second-guess his plan to take 3 energetic boys to the park. But when he knocked on the door of Penelope's modest apartment complex at exactly 10 o'clock, he could hear excited voices from inside. He is here! Mama, Mr. Gooper is here! The door opened to reveal Tyler bouncing on his toes, still in his pajamas but with his shoes already on. Behind him, Jake was carefully folding a piece of paper while Mason clutched a small stuffed elephant. Tyler, what did we say about getting dressed before our guest arrives? Penelope appeared in the doorway, looking harried but amused. She was wearing jeans and a green sweater that brought out the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. I am sorry. They have been awake since 6 o'clock asking when you would be here. I brought something for them. Cooper said, holding up a bag from the toy store. I hope that is all right. What is it? Mason asked, peering around his mother with wide eyes. Well, I thought since we are going to be spending time together, you might each like to have a special notebook for drawing or writing down interesting things we see. Cooper pulled out 3 spiral-bound notebooks, each a different color. Green for Jake, yellow for Mason, red for Tyler. Along with them, he had brought sets of colored pencils and small magnifying glasses. These are for exploring, he explained, crouching down to their level. Scientists and artists always carry notebooks to record their discoveries. Jake immediately opened his green notebook and began examining the magnifying glass with the intense focus he brought to everything. This makes things look bigger, so you can see all the details. Exactly. You can use it to look at leaves or rocks or insects or anything else that interests you. Mason was already drawing swirls of color on the first page of his yellow notebook. Look, it is a rainbow tornado. Tyler had tucked his red notebook under his arm and was practicing looking through his magnifying glass at everything in sight. Mama, your freckles look like tiny polka dots. Penelope laughed, the first completely relaxed sound Cooper had heard from her. All right, boys, go get dressed so you can show Mr. Cooper the park. And do not forget your jackets. As the boys thundered down the hallway toward their bedrooms, Penelope turned to Cooper. Thank you. Those were very thoughtful gifts. I wanted them to have something special from our first real day together. Cooper looked around the small living room, taking in the crayon drawings taped to the walls, the baskets of toys neatly organized in each corner, the family photos covering every available surface. It was nothing like his minimalist downtown condo, but it felt more like home than anywhere he had ever lived. They have been talking about you all week, Penelope said quietly. Jake has been making a list of questions to ask you. Mason drew you a picture, and Tyler has been practicing his best jokes. I have been thinking about them all week too. Cooper picked up one of the framed photos from the side table. It showed the 3 boys on their 4th birthday, identical grins covered in chocolate frosting. I keep wondering what other moments like this I have missed. You cannot get those back, Penelope said gently, but you can make sure you do not miss any more. I am ready, Tyler announced, running back into the room wearing his jacket inside out and his shoes on the wrong feet. Tyler, buddy, let me help you with that, Cooper said, kneeling down to help him sort out his clothes. The trust with which Tyler lifted his arms to let Cooper fix his jacket made something tight and warm settle in Cooper's chest. When all 3 boys were properly dressed and equipped with their new notebooks, they set off for Riverside Park. The drizzle had stopped, and weak sunshine was trying to break through the clouds. Mr. Cooper, do you know how to play soccer? Tyler asked, dribbling an imaginary ball as they walked. I played a little in college. Do you like soccer? I love it. I'm going to be on a real team when I turn 5. Mama says I have to learn to share the ball first. Sharing is important in soccer, Cooper agreed, and in lots of other things too. Jake, who had been walking quietly beside them, suddenly stopped. Mr. Cooper, why do you have the same eyes as us? Cooper felt Penelope's attention sharpen, even though she continued walking. This was the moment they had both known was coming. Well, Jake, sometimes when people are related to each other, they look similar, like how you and Mason and Tyler all look alike. Are we related to you? Mason asked, suddenly interested in the conversation. Cooper looked at Penelope, who nodded slightly. Yes, you are. I am your father. The 3 boys stopped walking entirely, processing this information with the seriousness it deserved. So you are our daddy? Tyler asked. Yes, I am. Where have you been? Jake's question was direct and without accusation, just a 4-year-old's need to understand the world. I have been living in a different city, and I did not know about you boys until this week when I saw you at the hospital. Did not Mama tell you about us? Mason asked. She tried to, but sometimes grown-up messages get lost, and I did not get them. Tyler, who had been thinking hard, suddenly brightened. So now you know about us, and we know about you, so we can be a family. It is a little more complicated than that, Penelope said gently. But yes, Mr. Gooper is your father, and he wants to spend time with you and get to know you better. Can we call you Daddy instead of Mr. Gooper? Mason asked. Cooper's throat tightened. You can call me whatever feels right to you. There is no hurry. By the time they reached the park, the boys had accepted this new information with the adaptability of children and were already planning all the things they wanted to show their newly discovered father. Gooper found himself running around the playground, pushing swings, and being recruited as the monster in an elaborate game of tag. When Tyler skinned his knee on the slide, he ran straight to Gooper, tears streaming down his face. Gooper gathered him up without thinking, checking the injury and offering comfort in a way that felt as natural as breathing. You are bleeding, Mason announced dramatically. Just a little scrape, Gooper said, pulling a band-aid from the first aid kit Penelope had wisely packed. This will make it feel better. Do you have kids' band-aids? Tyler sniffled. Actually, yes. Gooper had spent an hour at the pharmacy the night before, trying to anticipate what he might need. The band-aids had cartoon dinosaurs on them. Dinosaurs are my favorite. Tyler's tears dried instantly. Daddy, can I see all the band-aids? The word hit Gooper like a lightning bolt. Daddy. Tyler had said it so naturally, as if Gooper had been there all along. Tyler, what did you call Mr. Gooper? Penelope asked gently. Daddy, Tyler said matter-of-factly. He is our daddy, and he has dinosaur band-aids, so he must be a good daddy. Jake and Mason considered this logic and apparently found it sound because they began chattering about all the things they wanted to show their daddy next week. As they walked home, Gooper found himself with Tyler's hand in his left, Mason's in his right, and Jake walking beside Penelope, but occasionally running over to show Gooper something interesting through his magnifying glass. This was a good day, Penelope said quietly as they approached her apartment building. The best day, Gooper agreed. Thank you for trusting me with them. Thank you for being exactly what they needed. As Gooper drove home to his empty condo that evening, he realized that his life had just changed in ways he was only beginning to understand. For the first time in years, he was already counting the days until Saturday. By the third Saturday, Gooper had learned several important things about being a father. First, 4-year-old boys could consume their body weight in goldfish crackers and still be hungry an hour later. Second, the question, why, was not actually a request for information, but rather an invitation to a philosophical discussion that could last for hours. Third, he had never been happier in his entire life. Daddy, watch this, Tyler called out, hanging upside down from the monkey bars at their new favorite playground. Gooper had learned to respond to Daddy as naturally as breathing, and the boys had learned that he would always watch, no matter what they wanted to show him. Very impressive, Gooper called back, while simultaneously helping Mason collect interesting leaves for his nature journal and listening to Jake's latest theory about how clouds formed. I think they are like cotton candy machines in the sky, Jake was explaining seriously. The wind spins the water around until it gets fluffy. That is a very creative theory, Gooper said. What do you think we could do to test it? Jake's face lit up with the joy of a fellow scientist. We could build a cotton candy machine. Maybe we could start with something a little simpler, Gooper suggested, like making our own clouds in a jar. Can we really do that? Mason had abandoned his leaf collection and was now completely focused on this new possibility. We can try. I will bring the supplies next week, and we can experiment together. Penelope, who was sitting on a nearby bench grading homework from her nursing classes, looked up with a smile. You realize you have just committed yourself to a full-scale science project, right? I'm looking forward to it, Gooper replied, and he meant it. A month ago, the idea of spending his Saturday afternoon discussing cloud formation with 3 4-year-olds would have seemed absurd. Now, he could not imagine wanting to be anywhere else. "Daddy, come push me on the swings!" Tyler had moved on from the monkey bars and was already claiming the highest swing. As Gooper jogged over to help Tyler, he caught Penelope watching him with an expression he could not quite read. Over the past few weeks, she had relaxed around him considerably. She laughed at his fumbling attempts to navigate 4-year-old logic, offered gentle corrections when he was too lenient or too strict, and had begun staying for their weekend adventures instead of dropping the boys off and leaving. "Higher, Daddy! I want to touch the clouds!" Gooper gave Tyler a bigger push, smiling as the little boy shrieked with delight. When he looked back at the bench, Penelope was still watching him, but now she was smiling too. After the playground, they had established a routine of stopping for ice cream at the small shop near Penelope's apartment. Gooper had learned that Jake preferred vanilla with chocolate sprinkles. Mason liked to try a different flavor every week, and Tyler always ordered chocolate but spent most of his time eating everyone else's ice cream instead. "Next week is my birthday," Mason announced around a spoonful of strawberry ice cream. "I'm going to be 5 years old." "All 3 of you are going to be 5, Gooper asked. "We have the same birthday because we are triplets," Jake explained patiently. "We were born on the same day. That must make for a very exciting birthday party. Mama always makes us a big cake, and we get to invite friends from school, and there are games and presents," Tyler added. "Do you want to come to our party, Daddy?" Gooper looked at Penelope, who nodded. "I would love to come to your party." "Can you help blow up balloons?" Mason asked. "Mama gets tired because there are so many." "I am excellent at blowing up balloons," Gooper assured him. "Can you help with the games too?" Jake wanted to know. "We always play treasure hunt, but Mama has to hide all the clues and then pretend she does not know where they are. I think I can handle treasure hunt clues." As they walked back to Penelope's apartment, the boys ran ahead, their energy somehow renewed despite having spent 3 hours at the playground. Gooper found himself walking beside Penelope, both of them watching their sons with the shared pride of parents. "They have gotten attached to you very quickly," Penelope observed. "I have gotten attached to them very quickly too," Gooper replied. "Is that a problem?" "No, it is not a problem. I just want to make sure you understand what you are signing up for. Birthday parties are just the beginning. There will be school plays where they forget their lines, soccer games where they cry because their team loses, nights when they wake up with nightmares or stomach bugs. I want all of it," Gooper said without hesitation. "The good days and the bad days, the easy moments and the hard ones. I want to be their father in every way that matters." Penelope stopped walking and turned to look at him directly. "Gooper, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why are you not married? I mean, you are successful, attractive, good with children apparently. Why are you still single at 35? Gooper considered the question seriously. "I always thought I was too busy building my career to focus on relationships. After my parents died, I threw myself into work because it was easier than dealing with the grief. I dated occasionally, but I never met anyone who made me want to change my priorities. And now I realize I had my priorities completely wrong." Gooper looked at the 3 boys who were trying to convince their mother to let them climb the apartment building's decorative tree. "I spent 10 years building a company and accumulating wealth, thinking that was what success looked like. But watching Jake figure out how things work, or seeing Mason create something beautiful, or hearing Tyler laugh when something delights him, that feels more important than any business deal I have ever made." "Parenthood changes you," Penelope said softly. "I used to think my career was the most important thing in my life. Then these three came along, and suddenly everything else became secondary. Do you regret that, giving up career ambitions for them? I did not give up my career ambitions, I just adjusted them. Penelope's smile was peaceful. I'm still planning to become a nurse practitioner. It will just take me a little longer, because I am doing it around their schedule. But they will not be little forever, and when they are older, I will be glad I spent this time with them instead of chasing promotions. As they reached the apartment building, Gooper felt something settle into place in his chest. For the first time in his adult life, he understood what people meant when they talked about having balance. "Daddy, will you read us a story before you go home?" Mason asked as they climbed the stairs to the third floor. "If your mother says it is all right, it is all right," Penelope said. "But just one story, it is already past nap time." 20 minutes later, Gooper found himself in the middle of the boys' bedroom with Tyler on his lap, Jake leaning against his left side, and Mason curled up against his right side, all of them listening intently as he read about a dragon who was afraid of fire. When the story ended and the boys were settled for their naps, Gooper followed Penelope to the kitchen, where she was starting preparations for dinner. "You do not have to leave right away," she said, without looking up from the vegetables she was chopping, "unless you have somewhere else to be." "I do not have anywhere else to be." Gooper leaned against the counter, watching her efficient movements. "Can I help with anything? Can you cook?" "I can follow directions, and I am good at not burning things." Penelope handed him a second knife and pointed to a pile of carrots. "Then you can help with the vegetables." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the quiet broken only by the occasional sound of one of the boys stirring in the next room. "Gooper," Penelope said eventually, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not trying harder to reach you when I found out I was pregnant. I was scared and proud and probably a little stubborn, but you deserved to know about them from the beginning. You were 23 years old and facing an unexpected pregnancy," Gooper said gently. "You made the best decisions you could with the information you had, and you raised 3 incredible children completely on your own. You do not owe me any apologies. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had been more persistent, if I had shown up at your office instead of just calling." "We cannot change the past," Gooper said, echoing her own words from their first conversation, "but we can make sure we do not waste any more time." Penelope looked up from her cutting board and smiled at him, the first truly open, unguarded smile he had seen from her since their reunion. "I am glad you found us," she said quietly. "So am I." The boys' 5th birthday party was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. But Gooper arrived at noon with his arms full of supplies and his heart full of nervous energy. In his corporate life, he had managed product launches and shareholder meetings without breaking a sweat. But the thought of helping coordinate a birthday party for 15 4- and 5-year-olds was genuinely intimidating. "You look terrified," Penelope observed, opening the door to let him into the apartment that had been transformed overnight into Party Central. Streamers hung from every surface, balloons bobbed from chairbacks, and a large banner reading, "Happy 5th birthday Jake, Mason and Tyler," stretched across the living room. "I'm terrified," Gooper admitted. "What if the treasure hunt clues are too hard? What if someone gets hurt during the games? What if they do not like the cake? Gooper, you run a $50 million company. I think you can handle a children's birthday party." Running a company is easy. The worst thing that happens in a board meeting is someone disagrees with your quarterly projections. At a children's party, someone could have an allergic reaction or fall off the furniture or have a meltdown because another kid got a bigger piece of cake. Penelope put her hands on his shoulders and looked him directly in the eye. "Breathe. These are good kids, and their parents are reasonable people. The cake is chocolate with vanilla frosting, which is universally beloved by 5-year-olds. The treasure hunt clues are perfect. And if someone has a meltdown, we will handle it together. Together, Gooper repeated, feeling some of the tension leave his shoulders. Together. Now, can you help me move the furniture so we have more room for games? For the next hour, they transformed Penelope's modest apartment into party headquarters. Gooper discovered that he was indeed excellent at blowing up balloons, and that hanging streamers required a level of artistic vision he had not known he possessed. "Daddy, do you think our friends will like the treasure hunt?" Jake asked, carefully checking each clue for the third time. "I think they are going to love it. You helped write some of these clues, so they are definitely going to be fun." "I made the one about looking where the books sleep," Jake said proudly. "That is a very clever way to describe a bookshelf." Mason appeared at Cooper's elbow, clutching a large sheet of paper. "Daddy, I made you a picture for helping with our party." Gooper accepted the artwork with the gravity it deserved. Mason had drawn what appeared to be a family of stick figures standing in front of a house, with a large birthday cake floating above their heads. "This is beautiful, Mason. Is this our family?" "Yes, that is you, and that is Mama, and those are me and Jake and Tyler. And that is our birthday cake, and it is flying because it is so happy. I love flying birthday cake. This is definitely going on my refrigerator." "You have a refrigerator?" Tyler had joined the conversation, bouncing on his toes with excitement. "Yes, I have a refrigerator. Where did you think I kept my food?" "I thought maybe you went to restaurants every day because you are rich." Gooper laughed. "I do have a kitchen, but I'm not a very good cook. That is why I usually eat sandwiches or order takeout." "Mama is a good cook," Jake announced. "She makes the best pancakes in the world." "I believe that," Gooper said, catching Penelope's amused smile from across the room. At exactly 2 o'clock, the first guests began arriving. Gooper watched in amazement as Penelope seamlessly orchestrated the chaos of 15 children, their parents, presents, and party games. She was completely in her element, laughing with the kids, chatting easily with the other parents, and somehow managing to keep track of everyone and everything at once. "You must be Gooper," said a woman with kind eyes and a toddler on her hip. "I am Sarah, Tommy's mom. The boys have been talking about their daddy for weeks." "It is nice to meet you," Gooper replied, still getting used to being identified as the boy's daddy by people he had never met. "They adore you, you know. Jake told Tommy that his daddy knows everything about how machines work. Mason told his preschool teacher that his daddy is the best at pushing swings, and Tyler announced to the entire grocery store that his daddy has dinosaur Band-Aids. Gooper felt a warm glow spread through his chest. They are pretty amazing kids. Penelope has done an incredible job with them, and it is wonderful that they have their father in their lives now. Children need that. As the afternoon progressed, Gooper found himself completely caught up in the joy of the celebration. He helped facilitate games, served cake, and somehow ended up as the designated photographer, capturing shots of chocolate-covered faces and gap-toothed grins. The treasure hunt was a massive success, with the children following clues that led them around the apartment and ended with a hidden cache of small toys and candy. Gooper watched with pride as his sons worked together to help the younger kids figure out the more difficult clues. "They are natural leaders," observed David, whose daughter was in the same preschool class as the boys. "They get that from their mother," Gooper said, watching Penelope help a shy little girl join in the dancing game. "Maybe, but they get their kindness from both sides. You can see it in how they interact with you and with each other." When it came time to open presents, Gooper sat on the floor with Penelope, helping to keep track of thank you notes and making sure each gift was properly admired. The boys had received books, art supplies, building sets, and clothes, but their faces lit up brightest when they opened Gooper's gift. "A real tool set," Jake breathed, examining the child-sized hammer and screwdriver with reverence. And art supplies. Mason had discovered the professional-grade colored pencils and sketch pad, and a soccer ball. Tyler was already dribbling his new ball around the living room. "These are perfect, Daddy," Mason said, throwing his arms around Cooper's neck. "Thank you for the best presents ever." "Thank you for letting me be part of your special day," Cooper replied, his voice thick with emotion. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Cooper found himself helping with cleanup while the boys showed off their new toys to each other. Penelope was packing leftover cake into containers for guests to take home. "How are you feeling?" she asked quietly. "Your first major parenting milestone." "Exhausted, exhilarated, and completely happy," Cooper answered honestly. "I cannot believe I almost missed this." "But you did not miss it. You were here for their 5th birthday, and you will be here for their 6th and their 16th and their 25th. Cooper looked around the apartment, taking in the scene of happy chaos. Streamers hung askew, balloons had deflated slightly, and there were crumbs and frosting on every surface. But Jake was contentedly building something with his new tools. Mason was already drawing in his new sketch pad. Tyler was carefully balancing his soccer ball on his head, and Penelope was smiling at all of them with pure maternal joy. "I want to be here for all of it," Cooper said, "not just the big moments like birthdays and holidays. I want to be here for the ordinary Tuesday afternoons, and the difficult bedtimes, and the times when they are sick or scared or just need someone to listen to them." "That is what being a parent means," Penelope said softly. "Showing up consistently, not just for the celebration moments." "I know I still have a lot to learn about being a father," Cooper continued, "but I also know that I have never been more certain about anything in my life. These boys are my priority now. Everything else is secondary." Penelope set down the container of leftover cake and turned to face him fully. "Cooper, there is something I need to tell you." Something in her tone made him give her his complete attention. "What is it?" "I am falling in love with you again." The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable, and completely unexpected. "Penelope, I know this complicates things," she rushed on. "I know we agreed to focus on you building a relationship with the boys, but watching you with them these past few weeks, seeing how naturally you have stepped into being their father, seeing how much joy they bring you and how much joy you bring them, I cannot help how I feel." Cooper reached for her hands, threading their fingers together. "You are not complicating anything. You are making everything make sense." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I have been falling in love with you again too, but it is not the same as it was before. 5 years ago, I was attracted to your intelligence and your laugh and the way you challenged me. Now, I'm in love with the woman who raised our children with such patience and wisdom, who creates a home filled with laughter and learning, who trusted me enough to let me into their lives." "So, what happens now?" Penelope asked. "Now, we figure out how to be a family," Cooper said simply. "All 4 of us, together." From the living room came the sound of Tyler's delighted laughter as Jake showed him how to use the toy hammer, and Mason's voice as he narrated the picture he was drawing of their perfect day. "I like the sound of that," Penelope said, stepping closer to him. "So do I." When Cooper kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise, it felt like coming home. 3 weeks after the birthday party, Cooper found himself standing in the cereal aisle of the grocery store at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, holding Tyler's hand while Jake compared nutrition labels and Mason tried to convince everyone that Lucky Charms counted as a balanced breakfast because it had all the colors of the rainbow. "Daddy, why do some cereals have more sugar than others?" Jake asked, squinting at the tiny print on the back of a box. "Well, companies add sugar to make cereal taste sweeter, but too much sugar is not good for growing bodies," Cooper explained, amazed at how naturally these conversations had become part of his life. But sugar tastes good, Tyler pointed out with irrefutable 4-year-old logic. It does taste good, which is why we have to make smart choices about when we eat it. This was Cooper's new reality. Tuesday morning grocery runs before taking the boys to preschool, because Penelope had picked up an extra shift to cover for a colleague whose daughter was sick. 3 weeks ago, the idea of navigating a grocery store with 3 energetic children would have terrified him. Now, he had learned to pack snacks, bring entertainment, and accept that the trip would take twice as long as planned. "Can we get the cereal with the toy inside?" Mason asked hopefully. "What does Mama usually say about cereal with toys?" All 3 boys sighed dramatically. "Special occasions only," they chorused. "But this could be a special occasion," Tyler suggested, "like the special occasion of Daddy taking us grocery shopping." Cooper bit back a laugh. "Nice try, but I think we should stick to Mama's rules." As they made their way through the store, Cooper found himself thinking about how completely his life had changed. 6 weeks ago, his biggest decision on a Tuesday morning was whether to have his assistant pick up coffee from the usual place or try somewhere new. Now he was debating the merits of whole grain versus regular waffles, while Tyler rode on the shopping cart and Mason and Jake took turns reading items off Penelope's carefully organized list. "Daddy, do you miss your old life?" Jake asked suddenly, his serious green eyes studying Cooper's face. The question caught Cooper off guard. "What do you mean? Before you knew about us, when you could do whatever you wanted and did not have to worry about kids." Cooper stopped pushing the cart and crouched down to Jake's eye level, bringing Mason and Tyler closer so all 3 boys could hear his answer. "Jake, before I knew about you 3, I thought I was happy. I had a successful business, a nice apartment, and I could travel anywhere I wanted. But you know what I did not have?" "What?" Tyler asked, leaning forward with interest. "I did not have anyone to share good news with when something exciting happened at work. I did not have anyone who cared if I remembered to eat dinner or got home safely. I did not have anyone who made me laugh every single day or taught me new things or made me want to be a better person." "We do all those things?" Mason asked. "You do all those things and more. My old life was not really living. It was just existing. Now I have a family, and that makes every day an adventure." Jake considered this seriously. "Even when Tyler puts toothpaste on the bathroom mirror?" "Even then," Cooper confirmed, ruffling Tyler's hair, "although we should probably talk about keeping toothpaste in the tube where it belongs." Tyler grinned unrepentantly. It looked like art. By the time they finished shopping and loaded everything into Cooper's car, it was almost 8 o'clock. The boys chattered excitedly about their plans for the day as Cooper drove toward their preschool, and he found himself storing up these ordinary moments in his memory like precious photographs. "Daddy, are you coming to our school play next week?" Mason asked as they pulled into the parking lot. "I would not miss it." "What is the play about?" "We are doing The 3 Little Pigs, and I get to be the wolf," Tyler announced proudly. "I am the pig who builds the brick house," Jake added, "because I am good at building things." "And I painted the backdrop," Mason said. "It has a forest and a village and mountains." "It sounds like it is going to be wonderful," Cooper said, already mentally rearranging his schedule to make sure he could attend. As they walked toward the preschool entrance, Cooper realized that other parents were starting to recognize him. Mrs. Henderson, whose daughter was in Tyler's class, waved and smiled. Mr. Garcia, who always arrived at the same time, nodded and said good morning. "It is nice to see you again, Cooper," said Miss Jennifer, the boys' teacher. "The boys have been so excited about having you come to more school events." "I am excited too," Cooper replied, helping Tyler hang up his backpack in his cubby. "Daddy, will you pick us up today?" Jake asked, giving Cooper a hug goodbye. Mama will pick you up today because I have to work, but I will see you on Saturday for our zoo trip. Don't forget to bring the camera, Mason called as Cooper headed back toward the exit. I will not forget, Cooper promised. As he drove toward his office, Cooper reflected on how seamlessly he had adapted to this new rhythm of life. His assistant had learned to block out time for school events and family activities. His business partners had adjusted to the fact that he was no longer available for dinner meetings every night of the week. And Cooper had discovered that he was actually more focused and productive during his work hours because he had something meaningful to look forward to at the end of each day. Good morning, Mr. Everett, Linda greeted him as he arrived at the office. Your 9 o'clock meeting has been moved to 9:30, and I have those reports you requested on your desk. Thank you, Linda. Also, I need you to block out next Thursday at 10 o'clock for a preschool play. Of course. Will this be a recurring appointment? Cooper paused, thinking about all the school plays, soccer games, art shows, and science fairs that lay ahead in the coming years. You know what? Yes. Block out Thursday mornings indefinitely for school events. Consider it done. Cooper settled into his office chair and opened his laptop, but found his mind wandering to Saturday's zoo trip. Jake had been reading books about animals for weeks in preparation. Mason had been drawing pictures of all the animals he wanted to see, and Tyler had been practicing his animal sounds. Cooper had researched the zoo's layout, planned their route to minimize walking for short legs, and packed a bag with snacks, water bottles, and entertainment for the car ride. 6 weeks ago, this level of planning for a recreational activity would have seemed absurd to him. Now, it felt like the most important preparation he had ever done. His phone buzzed with a text message from Penelope. Thank you for handling grocery shopping this morning. You are a lifesaver. The boys loved their adventure with Daddy. Cooper smiled as he typed back, It was my pleasure. They were perfect shopping companions. How is your shift going? Busy but good. See you Saturday for Zoo Day. Would not miss it. As Cooper turned his attention to the quarterly reports on his desk, he realized that for the first time in his professional life, work felt like something he did between the important parts of his day, and he had never been happier. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for a family trip to the zoo. Cooper arrived at Penelope's apartment to find complete chaos. Tyler was missing one shoe. Mason could not find his special drawing pad. Jake was giving everyone a lecture about the difference between mammals and reptiles. And Penelope was trying to pack snacks while simultaneously braiding hair and locating lost items. Thank goodness you are here, she said, looking harried but beautiful in jeans and a yellow sweater that brought out the gold flecks in her eyes. Tyler, your shoe is under the couch. Mason, your drawing pad is on the kitchen counter. Jake, save the animal facts for the car. I found it, Tyler announced, emerging from under the furniture with his sneaker and a dust bunny in his hair. Cooper helped Tyler with his shoe, while Penelope finished the last-minute preparations. Over the past few weeks, they had developed an easy partnership in managing the boys, anticipating each other's moves, and working together without needing to discuss strategy. All right, zoo explorers, are we ready for our adventure? Cooper asked, shouldering the carefully packed diaper bag that contained everything from Band-Aids to binoculars. Ready? 3 voices chorused. The drive to the zoo was filled with excited chatter about which animals they would see first, debates about whether penguins were birds or fish, and Tyler's increasingly elaborate animal sound effects. Cooper found himself laughing more during the 45-minute drive than he had in entire weeks before becoming a father. Daddy, will you take pictures of us with the elephants? Mason asked as they walked through the zoo entrance. I will take pictures of you with every animal you want, Cooper promised, already having his camera ready. What followed was 3 hours of pure joy. They watched the boys' faces light up with wonder at the giraffe feeding, listened to Jake explain the difference between African and Asian elephants to anyone who would listen, and saw Mason carefully sketch his favorite animals in his drawing pad. Tyler made friends with every child they encountered and appointed himself the official announcer for their group. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the lion exhibit," he called out in his most important voice. "Please keep your hands and feet inside the walkway at all times." "Where did he learn that?" Cooper asked Penelope, who was laughing so hard she could barely walk. "He's been practicing his announcer voice all week. I think he wants to work at the zoo when he grows up. Last week he wanted to be a firefighter, and the week before that he wanted to be a chef, and Jake wants to be a scientist, and Mason wants to be an artist. They have such big dreams." Cooper stopped walking and turned to face her. "They can be anything they want to be. We will make sure of that." The simple word "we" hung in the air between them, carrying more weight than either of them had intended. Over the past few weeks, they had been functioning as a team, making decisions together about the boys, sharing responsibilities and inside jokes, and the 1,000 small moments that make up family life. But this was the first time either of them had acknowledged out loud that they were building something permanent together. "We," Penelope repeated softly, a smile spreading across her face. "If that is what you want," Cooper said, suddenly feeling uncertain. "I do not want to assume—" "Cooper." She reached for his hand, threading their fingers together. "That is exactly what I want." "Mama, Daddy, come see the monkey!" Tyler's voice interrupted the moment, but neither of them let go of each other's hands as they followed their sons to the next exhibit. The monkey house was a hit with all three boys, who found endless entertainment in watching the primates swing from branch to branch and interact with each other. Cooper found himself watching Penelope as much as he watched the animals, noting the way she pointed out interesting behaviors to the boys, the way she laughed at their questions, the way she automatically reached for Tyler when he got too close to the railing. "She is really something, is she not?" said a voice beside him. Cooper turned to see an older man with grey hair and kind eyes watching his own grandchildren at the exhibit. "Yes, she is," Cooper agreed. "My wife and I have been bringing our grandkids here for years, and you can always tell which parents really enjoy being with their children versus which ones are just going through the motions. You two clearly love what you are doing." "We do," Cooper said, and realized it was completely true. "Even when it is chaotic and exhausting, I cannot imagine wanting to be anywhere else." "That is how you know you are doing it right," the man said with a smile. "Enjoy these years. They go by faster than you think." As they made their way through the rest of the zoo, Cooper found himself treasuring each moment. Mason's careful concentration as he sketched a sleeping tiger. Jake's patient explanation to a younger child about why bears hibernate. Tyler's infectious giggles as he imitated the sounds of different birds. And Penelope's hand in his, warm and sure and right. By the time they reached the gift shop, all three boys were starting to show signs of fatigue, but they were still buzzing with excitement about everything they had seen. "Can we get something to remember our zoo day?" Jake asked hopefully. "One small thing each," Penelope said. "Something that will remind you of your favorite part of today." Jake chose a book about elephants. Mason selected a set of animal-shaped erasers for his art supplies, and Tyler picked out a stuffed monkey that made realistic monkey sounds when you squeezed it. "What about you, Daddy?" Tyler asked as they headed toward the car. "What was your favorite part?" Cooper looked at the three tired, happy faces surrounding him, at Penelope's smile, at the collection of photos on his camera that captured a perfect family day. "My favorite part," he said honestly, "was all of it. Every single minute. As they drove home, the boys gradually fell asleep in their car seats, exhausted from their big adventure. Cooper and Penelope talked quietly about the day, sharing favorite moments and planning their next family outing. "Cooper," Penelope said as they pulled into her apartment complex, "would you like to stay for dinner? Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad, but—" "I would love to," Cooper said without hesitation. "Good. Because I think the boys would be disappointed if you left before they could show you all their treasures from today." As they carefully transferred 3 sleeping children from car seats to beds, Cooper felt a contentment he had never experienced before. This was what happiness looked like: spaghetti sauce on small faces, exhausted children clutching new treasures, and the woman he loved asking him to stay just a little longer. "Welcome home," Penelope whispered as they closed the boys' bedroom door, and Cooper realized that was exactly what this felt like. Home. "Daddy, I do not feel good." Tyler's small voice came through the phone at 6:30 on a Wednesday morning, immediately jolting Cooper from sleep. "What is wrong, buddy?" Cooper asked, already sitting up and reaching for his clothes. "My tummy hurts, and I threw up, and Mama says I cannot go to school today." In the background, Cooper could hear Mason crying and Jake's voice asking worried questions. Penelope came on the line, sounding stressed and exhausted. "I am so sorry to call you this early, but Tyler has been sick since about 4 o'clock this morning, and now Mason is starting to feel queasy too. I called in sick to work, but I hate missing my shift when we are already short-staffed." "Do not apologize," Cooper said, already pulling on his jeans. "I am coming over. What do you need me to bring?" "You do not have to—" "Penelope? Yes, I do. I am their father, and you are—" He paused, realizing what he had been about to say. "You are important to me. We are a family, and families take care of each other when someone is sick." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "Could you stop by the pharmacy and get some children's electrolyte solution, the kind that tastes like fruit punch?" "Already on my way." 20 minutes later, Cooper stood outside Penelope's apartment door with a pharmacy bag in one hand and a container of homemade chicken soup from his favorite deli in the other. The woman behind the counter had assured him it was exactly what sick children needed. Penelope opened the door, looking like she had not slept in days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She was wearing an old college sweatshirt, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "You look beautiful," Cooper said honestly, because even exhausted and worried, she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. "I look like I have been up all night with sick children," she corrected, but she was smiling as she let him in. The apartment was quieter than usual. Jake was sitting on the couch reading a book, periodically glancing toward the hallway where Tyler and Mason were presumably resting. The living room showed signs of a long night, pillows and blankets everywhere, a bowl and towels stacked on the coffee table, and the faint smell of disinfectant in the air. "How are they doing?" Cooper asked quietly. "Tyler seems to be feeling a little better, but Mason just threw up about an hour ago. Jake is fine so far, but I am watching him carefully." "And how are you doing?" Penelope rubbed her eyes tiredly. "I will be fine once I know they are all feeling better. It is just hard when they are sick. They want Mama all the time, and I feel so helpless when I cannot make them feel better immediately." "You are not helpless," Cooper said gently. "You are an amazing mother, and they are lucky to have you taking care of them." "Hi, Daddy," Jake said quietly from the couch. "Tyler and Mason have the stomach flu." "I heard. How are you feeling?" "I feel fine, but Mama says I have to stay home from school too in case I get sick later." "That is probably smart. Are you being a good helper for Mama?" Jake nodded seriously. "I brought Tyler the special bucket when he felt sick, and I got Mason a cool washcloth for his forehead." "Those are very important helper jobs," Cooper said, feeling a surge of pride at Jake's thoughtfulness. A weak voice called from the hallway, "Mama, I need you." "That is Tyler," Penelope said. already heading toward the bedroom. "He has been asking for me every few minutes. Can I go see him?" Gooper asked. "Of course. He has been asking about you too." Gooper found Tyler curled up in the bottom bunk of the boys' bunk bed, looking small and pale against the dinosaur print sheets. Mason was in the top bunk, sleeping fitfully. "Hi, buddy," Gooper said softly, sitting on the edge of Tyler's bed. "I heard you are not feeling very good today." "My tummy still hurts," Tyler said pitifully. "And I am thirsty, but Mama says I can only have little sips." "Mama is right. When your tummy is upset, little sips help it feel better faster than big drinks." "Will you stay with me, Daddy?" Cooper's heart clenched. "Of course I will stay with you." For the next hour, Gooper sat beside Tyler's bed, reading quietly from a picture book and offering small sips of electrolyte solution. When Tyler finally fell asleep, Gooper found Penelope in the kitchen, staring at her coffee cup with exhausted eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for coming over, for bringing supplies, for sitting with Tyler. You did not have to do any of that." "Yes, I did," Gooper said firmly. "Penelope, this is what I meant when I said I wanted all of it. The birthday parties and the zoo trips are wonderful, but this matters too. Maybe more. Sick children are not exactly glamorous. Nothing about parenting is glamorous, but it is real, and it is important, and I want to be here for all of it." Penelope looked at him with something that might have been wonder. Most men would have sent flowers and stayed away until the contagious period was over. I am not most men, and these are not just any children. They are our children. The word "our" seemed to settle something between them. Penelope reached across the small kitchen table and took his hand. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," Gooper replied, bringing her hand to his lips. "All of you, even when you are covered in disinfectant and have not slept in 24 hours. Especially then. Especially then." They were interrupted by Mason's voice calling weakly from the bedroom. Penelope started to get up, but Gooper was already moving. "I will go," he said. "You finish your coffee?" Mason was sitting up in his top bunk, looking confused and queasy. "Daddy, where is Mama?" "Mama is right here, sweetheart," Penelope said, appearing in the doorway. "Daddy is helping take care of you today." "My tummy feels funny again," Mason said uncertainly. Gooper quickly grabbed the basin from the nightstand and held it steady while Mason was sick again. When it was over, Gooper helped him rinse his mouth and get settled back into bed with a cool washcloth on his forehead. "Thank you, Daddy," Mason whispered. "You are really good at taking care of sick kids." "I am learning from the best," Gooper said, glancing at Penelope, who was watching from the doorway with tears in her eyes. The rest of the day passed in a blur of checking temperatures, offering small amounts of clear liquids, and providing comfort to two miserable little boys. Jake remained healthy, but stayed close to his brothers, offering to share his favorite stuffed animals and entertaining them with quiet stories. By evening, both Tyler and Mason were keeping liquids down and had even managed a few crackers. Gooper had called his office twice to handle urgent matters, but had otherwise devoted his entire day to his sick family. "You missed a whole day of work," Penelope said as they sat together on the couch, finally able to relax slightly. "I did not miss anything important," Gooper said firmly. "This was the most important place I could be today. But your company will be fine without me for one day." "Penelope, I spent the first 35 years of my life thinking work was the most important thing. I am not making that mistake again." Tyler appeared in the living room doorway, looking much more like himself. "Daddy, are you going home now?" "Do you want me to go home?" Tyler shook his head vigorously. "I want you to stay forever." Gooper looked at Penelope, who nodded slightly. "Forever is a long time, buddy. But I am not going anywhere tonight." I will be right here if you need me." As they tucked all three boys into bed that night, Gooper realized something had shifted between him and Penelope. They moved around each other with an ease and intimacy that spoke of shared purpose and deep trust. When she handed him Tyler's favorite stuffed animal to tuck in beside him, when he automatically reached for the nightlight switch as she finished Mason's bedtime story, when they both bent to kiss Jake goodnight at the same time and their heads bumped gently together, it all felt natural and right and permanent. "Gooper," Penelope said softly as they stood in the hallway outside the boys' room, "I know we have not talked about the future, about what this all means." "I know what it means to me," Gooper interrupted gently. "It means I want to be here for every sick day and every healthy day. I want to be the person you call when Tyler throws up at 4 in the morning. I want to be the one who sits with Mason when he does not feel good. I want to help Jake with his homework and drive them to soccer practice and worry about them when they are teenagers and walk them down the aisle when they get married." "That is a very long list," Penelope said, but she was smiling. "It is not nearly long enough," Gooper replied. "I want everything, Penelope. I want our whole life together." When she kissed him this time, it tasted like promises and forever, and the kind of love that grows stronger in the ordinary moments between the big ones. "So do I," she whispered against his lips. "I want all of it too." 2 weeks later, Gooper was learning that "I want everything" was a much easier thing to say than to actually navigate. He was standing in Penelope's kitchen at 7 o'clock on a Thursday morning, trying to pack 3 different lunch preferences while simultaneously helping Jake find his library book, listening to Mason's detailed description of the art project he was planning, and preventing Tyler from feeding his scrambled eggs to the goldfish. "Tyler, fish do not eat scrambled eggs," Gooper explained patiently, redirecting the spoon toward Tyler's mouth instead of toward the fishbowl. "How do you know? Did you ask them? Fish eat special fish food to stay healthy, just like you eat people food to stay healthy. But what if they want to try something new?" Before Gooper could answer this logical question, Jake appeared at his elbow with a worried expression. "Daddy, I cannot find my library book anywhere, and we have to return it today or I will get in trouble." "We will find it," Gooper assured him, mentally running through the typical hiding places for missing items in a house with 3 4-year-olds. "When did you see it last?" "Yesterday after school. I was reading it on the couch, but then Tyler wanted to play robots, and then Mason needed help with his art project, and then it was dinner time, and then—" "Okay, let us retrace your steps. Mason, what art project did Jake help you with?" Mason looked up from his careful arrangement of fruit snacks in his lunchbox. "I was making a card for Mama because she has been working extra shifts and I wanted her to know. I think she is the best mama in the world." Gooper felt his heart squeeze tight. "That is very thoughtful of you. Where did you make this card?" "At the kitchen table, and Jake helped me spell wonderful because it is a hard word." Gooper walked to the kitchen table and looked underneath. Sure enough, there was Jake's library book, apparently knocked to the floor and pushed under the table during the art project. "Found it," he announced, holding up the book triumphantly. "You are the best daddy in the world," Jake declared, throwing his arms around Cooper's waist. "Just doing my job," Gooper said, but he felt ridiculously pleased by the praise. Penelope appeared in the kitchen doorway, already dressed for work in her cheerful pediatric nurse scrubs covered with cartoon animals. "How is everyone doing? Are we ready for school?" "Almost ready," Gooper said, handing her a travel mug of coffee prepared exactly the way she liked it. "Lunches are packed, library book is found, and Tyler has only tried to feed his breakfast to the fish twice." "That is actually a very good morning by Tyler standards," Penelope said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Boys, go brush your teeth and get your backpacks." As the boys thundered down the hallway toward the bathroom, Penelope moved closer to Gooper. You know you do not have to do the morning routine when you stay over, right? I managed it by myself for 4 years. I know you did, and you did an incredible job. But why should you manage it by yourself when I am here and happy to help? Because you have your own job to get to, and your own life, and... Cooper put his hands on her shoulders and looked directly into her eyes. Penelope, this is my life. You and the boys are my life. Everything else is just how I pay for it. But your company is doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I have discovered that having something more important than work to focus on has made me more efficient during the hours I'm actually at the office. More important than work, Penelope repeated, as if testing the words. Much more important than work. Tyler came running back into the kitchen with toothpaste foam still around his mouth. Daddy, will you pick us up from school today? Cooper looked at Penelope, who nodded. Yes, I will pick you up today. What time does school end? 3 o'clock, all 3 boys chorused from various parts of the apartment. 3 o'clock it is, and maybe after school we can stop at the park if the weather is nice. Can we bring our notebooks and magnifying glasses? Jake asked excitedly. Absolutely. We might find some interesting things to study. As they gathered backpacks and lunchboxes and loaded everyone into Cooper's car for the drive to school, Cooper marveled at how naturally this routine had become part of his life. 6 weeks ago, he had never even seen a preschool drop-off line. Now he knew which teacher was which children were in each of his son's classes, and which parents to chat with while waiting for the doors to open. Have a good day at work, Mama, Tyler said, giving Penelope a kiss goodbye as Cooper pulled up to the hospital entrance to drop her off. Have a good day at school, all of you, she replied, kissing each boy in turn. Be good for Daddy. We are always good for Daddy, Mason said innocently, which made Cooper and Penelope both laugh. Sure you are, Penelope said, but she was smiling as she got out of the car. The preschool drop-off went smoothly, with each boy proudly introducing Cooper to children and teachers he had not met yet. Cooper was starting to feel like a regular part of the school community, and he liked the sense of belonging that came with being known as Jake and Mason and Tyler's dad. As he drove toward his office, Cooper's phone rang through the car's Bluetooth system. Good morning, Mr. Everett, came Linda's voice. Your 9 o'clock meeting has been confirmed, and I have those contracts ready for your review. Also, there have been 3 calls about the Henderson project. Thank you, Linda. I will be in the office in about 20 minutes. And remember, I need to leave by 2:30 today for school pickup. Of course. Also, your accountant called about the quarterly taxes, and there was a message from someone at Riverside Children's Hospital about the Foundation's next donation. Cooper made a mental note to return both calls. The hospital call was probably about expanding the Foundation's support to include a new pediatric imaging system, and he was genuinely excited about the possibility of funding equipment that would help children like his sons. When he arrived at his office, Cooper was surprised to find his business partner, David Chen, waiting in his office with coffee and a serious expression. We need to talk, David said without preamble. Good morning to you too, Cooper said, hanging up his jacket and settling behind his desk. What is on your mind? You are, actually. Cooper, I have been your business partner for 5 years, and your friend for longer than that. I need to ask you something, and I need you to give me an honest answer. Cooper felt a flicker of unease. Ask away. Are you losing interest in the company? The question caught Cooper completely off guard. What makes you think that? You leave every day at exactly 5 o'clock. You block out time for school events. You turned down the Singapore expansion meeting because it conflicted with something called Zoo Day. You have not worked a weekend in over a month. Cooper studied his partner's face, trying to read the expression there. David, Are you asking if having a family has made me less committed to our business? I am asking if you are planning to step back from day-to-day operations. No, I am not planning to step back. But I am planning to maintain a healthy balance between work and family. Is that a problem? David leaned back in his chair, looking relieved. Actually, no. It is not a problem at all. In fact, you have been more focused and decisive in meetings lately than you have been in years. I was just worried that you might be planning some major life change without telling me. The major life change already happened when I discovered I had 3 sons. Everything else is just adjustment. Fair enough. So tell me about these kids. I've heard so much about them from Linda that I feel like I know them personally. Gooper found himself pulling out his phone to show David the pictures from their recent zoo trip. And before he knew it, he had spent 20 minutes talking about Jake's scientific curiosity, Mason's artistic talent, and Tyler's infectious enthusiasm for life. They sound incredible, David said when Gooper finally paused. And you sound happier than I have ever heard you. I am happier than I have ever been. Then I am happy for you. Just promise me you will let me know if you ever do decide to make any major changes to your role here. I promise. But David, the changes I have made are about being more efficient with my time, not less committed to our success. Having something important waiting for me at the end of the day makes me want to accomplish more during business hours. I can see that. Your productivity has actually increased since you started keeping regular hours. The rest of the morning passed quickly, with Gooper diving into contract reviews and strategic planning with the kind of focused energy that came from knowing he had exactly 4.5 hours to accomplish everything on his list before he needed to leave for school pickup. At 2:30 sharp, Gooper saved his work, gathered his things, and headed for the door. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Everett," Linda called. "Say hello to the boys for me." "I will. They have been asking when you're going to come meet them in person." "Soon," Linda promised. "I want to meet these children who have transformed my workaholic boss into someone who actually takes lunch breaks." As Gooper drove toward the preschool, he thought about David's questions. Was he less committed to the business? In terms of hours, probably. But in terms of focus and productivity, he was more committed than ever. Having a family had given him a sense of purpose that went beyond professional success. He was building something that would last beyond quarterly reports and annual profits. He was building a legacy that mattered. When he pulled up to the preschool, 3 familiar faces were pressed against the window of their classroom, watching for his car. The sight of their excitement at seeing him still took his breath away. "Daddy!" Tyler called, running toward the car as soon as his teacher opened the door. "Hi, buddy! How was your day?" "We learned about butterflies, and I made a picture of one, and Miss Jennifer said it was very colorful." Jake appeared at Cooper's side with his usual serious expression. "Daddy, did you know that butterflies taste with their feet?" "I did not know that." "That is a very interesting fact." Mason was last out of the building, carefully carrying a large piece of paper. "Daddy, I made this for you." Gooper knelt down to examine Mason's artwork. It was a drawing of their family standing in front of a house, with a big yellow sun shining overhead and flowers blooming in the yard. "This is beautiful, Mason. Is this our family?" "Yes, that is you, and that is Mama, and those are me and Jake and Tyler. And that is our house where we all live together." Gooper felt something twist in his chest. "Our house where we all live together," he repeated softly. "When are we going to get our house, Daddy?" Tyler asked, climbing into his car seat. "I want a yard where I can play soccer, and I want a room where I can do art projects," Mason added. "And I want a garage where I can build things," Jake chimed in. As Gooper helped them buckle their seatbelts, he found himself thinking about Mason's drawing and the boys' casual assumption that they would all live together someday. Was that what Penelope wanted too? They had talked about love and commitment, but they had not discussed practical things like living arrangements or timeline or how to blend their lives completely. "Daddy, can we go to the park now?" Tyler asked, interrupting his thoughts. "Absolutely," Gooper said, pushing his questions aside for later. "But first, let me hear about everything you learned at school today." As they drove toward the park, with three excited voices talking over each other to share the details of their day, Gooper realized that David had been wrong about one thing. Gooper was not less committed to anything. He was more committed than he had ever been in his life. He was committed to building a future that included morning routines and school pickups and art projects on the refrigerator, and the kind of love that grew stronger with every ordinary day they shared. "Gooper, we need to talk." Penelope's voice was serious as she set down her coffee cup on the kitchen table. It was Sunday morning, and the boys were in the living room building an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets. Gooper and Penelope had been enjoying a rare moment of quiet conversation, but something in her tone made Cooper's stomach tighten with worry. "That sounds ominous," he said, trying to keep his voice light. "Should I be concerned?" "Maybe. I do not know." Penelope ran her hands through her hair, a gesture Gooper had learned meant she was stressed or uncertain. "Gooper, we have been doing this for almost 2 months now, and it has been wonderful. Better than wonderful. But we have never talked about what we are actually doing." "What do you mean? I mean, are you my boyfriend? Are we dating? Are we just co-parenting? Are we—" She paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "Are we building towards something permanent, or are we just seeing how things go?" Gooper set down his own coffee cup and reached across the table to take her hands. "What brought this on?" "Mason's teacher asked me on Friday if you and I were married. And I realized I did not know how to answer that question. I said no, we are not married, but then she asked if we were planning to get married, and I had to say I did not know." "What did you want to tell her?" "That is the problem. I do not know what I want to tell her, because I do not know what you want." Gooper was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "Penelope, what I want is to marry you. What I want is for us to buy a house together and raise our boys together and build a life together. What I want is to be your husband and their father in every way that matters." Penelope's eyes widened. "Really? Really, I have wanted that for weeks, but I did not know how to bring it up without pressuring you or moving too fast." "You want to marry me," she repeated, as if testing the words. "I want to marry you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every evening. I want to make decisions together and solve problems together and celebrate successes together. I want to be there when the boys graduate from high school and when they go to college and when they get married and have children of their own." "That is a very long-term plan," Penelope said, but she was smiling now. "It is the only plan that makes sense to me. Penelope, I love you. I love our boys. I love the life we are building together. I do not want to date you or see how things go. I want to commit to you completely and permanently." "What about your life, your independence, your beautiful condo?" Gooper laughed. "My beautiful condo is just a place to sleep. It has never been a home." "This is home." He gestured around the small kitchen with its crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator and its cluttered counters and its view of the living room where 3 little boys were arguing about the proper architectural principles for blanket fort construction. "Even when it is chaotic and loud and there are Cheerios ground into the carpet. Especially then." Penelope was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. "Gooper, I need you to understand something. I've been taking care of myself and the boys for 5 years. I've made all the decisions, handled all the problems, and paid all the bills. I'm not looking for someone to rescue me or take care of me. I know that. I do not want to rescue you. I want to be your partner. What does that mean to you? Partnership. Gooper thought about it seriously. It means we make big decisions together, but we trust each other to handle day-to-day things independently. It means we support each other's goals and dreams, even when they require sacrifice from both of us. It means we divide responsibilities based on our strengths and preferences, not based on traditional gender roles or assumptions. And what about money? You make significantly more than I do. Money belongs to the family. Your nursing career is just as important as my business career. If you want to stay home with the boys, that is a choice we make together. If you want to work full-time or part-time or go back to school, those are choices we make together too. You have really thought about this. I have thought about nothing else for weeks. From the living room came the sound of Tyler's delighted laughter and Jake's voice explaining the engineering principles behind their fort. Mason appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Mama, we need more blankets for our fort. It is going to be the best fort in the whole world." "There are extra blankets in the hall closet," Penelope told him, "but be careful not to knock over the lamp." "Daddy, will you come see our fort when it is finished?" Mason asked. "I would not miss it for the world," Gooper assured him. After Mason disappeared back into the living room, Penelope turned back to Gooper. "They think of you as a permanent part of their lives, you know. They talk about you like you have always been here. How do you feel about that? Grateful, scared, hopeful?" She paused. "Gooper, what if we try this and it does not work? What if we get married and then discover we drive each other crazy when we live together full-time? What if you decide you miss your old life? What if we do not try it and spend the rest of our lives wondering what we could have had together?" That is not an answer. Yes, it is. Penelope, there are no guarantees in life. My parents had a wonderful marriage for 26 years, and then they died in a car accident. Your ex-boyfriend promised to love you forever, and then he disappeared when things got complicated. People make promises they cannot keep, and accidents happen, and life is unpredictable. So why take the risk? Because the alternative is living half a life, because what we have together is worth fighting for. Because I would rather have 20 years of this kind of happiness than 50 years of just existing. Penelope reached across the table and cupped his face in her hands. "I love you too. I love you so much. It scares me sometimes." "So what do we do about it?" "I think," she said slowly, "we should probably start looking for a house." Gooper felt his heart skip a beat. "Really?" "Really. A house with a yard for Tyler to play soccer, and a room where Mason can do art projects, and a garage where Jake can build things, and a master bedroom where their parents can have some privacy occasionally. That too," Penelope said, leaning across the table to kiss him softly. "Mama, Daddy, come see our fort." Tyler's voice interrupted them from the living room. "We should go admire their architectural achievement," Penelope said, standing up and extending her hand to Gooper. "In a minute," Gooper said, pulling her back down and kissing her again, deeper this time. "I just want to savor this moment when we decided to build a life together." "We are going to need a bigger dining room table," Penelope said against his lips. "We are going to need a lot of things, but we will figure it out together." "Together," she agreed. "Mama, Daddy, the fort is ready," came the chorus from the living room. "We are coming," Penelope called back, but she did not let go of Gooper's hand as they walked toward the living room, where 3 excited little boys were waiting to show them the most important architectural project in the world. As Gooper admired the blanket fort and listened to detailed explanations of its construction principles, he thought about how much his life had changed in just 2 months. 8 weeks ago, he had been a successful bachelor with no family responsibilities. Now he was planning to buy a house with the woman he loved and the 3 children who had transformed his understanding of what mattered in life. "Daddy, do you want to come inside the fort with us?" Jake asked. "Absolutely," Cooper said, getting down on his hands and knees to crawl through the blanket entrance. Inside the fort, with Tyler curled up against his side and Mason showing him drawings by flashlight and Jake explaining the superior design features of their construction, Cooper thought about Penelope's question about taking risks. Yes, there were risks in committing to this life, but there were bigger risks in not committing to it. The risk of missing out on moments like this. The risk of never knowing what it felt like to be completely unconditionally loved by 3 amazing children and 1 incredible woman. "This is the best fort ever," Tyler announced sleepily. "It really is," Cooper agreed. And he was not just talking about the blankets and pillows surrounding them. He was talking about the family they were building together, one ordinary moment at a time. House hunting with 3 5-year-old boys was nothing like the efficient real estate transactions Cooper was accustomed to in his business life. It was chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely wonderful. As they walked through their 5th house of the day, Tyler was testing the acoustics of every room by shouting, "Hello," and listening for echoes. Mason was evaluating each space for its artistic potential, and Jake was conducting a thorough structural analysis of door frames and light switches. "This house has good running space," Tyler announced, demonstrating by sprinting from the living room to the kitchen and back again. "Tyler, inside voices and walking feet," Penelope reminded him gently, but Cooper could see she was trying not to laugh. "But Mama, I need to make sure there is enough room for soccer practice when it rains." Their real estate agent, Patricia, had quickly adapted to showing houses to a family with very specific requirements. She had learned to point out features like excellent natural light for art projects and a kitchen island perfect for homework supervision, instead of focusing on things like investment potential and resale value. "The master bedroom has a lovely ensuite bathroom," Patricia was explaining to Cooper and Penelope as they toured the upstairs of a 4-bedroom colonial. "And there are 3 additional bedrooms that would be perfect for the boys." Cooper found himself standing in the doorway of what would be their shared bedroom, trying to imagine waking up next to Penelope every morning in this space. The thought filled him with a contentment he had never experienced before. "What do you think?" Penelope asked quietly, coming to stand beside him. "I think it feels like home," Cooper said honestly. "What do you think?" "I think the boys would love the backyard, and the kitchen is perfect for our family dinners, and the living room is big enough for blanket forts. Those are the most important considerations," Cooper agreed. "Daddy, come see this." Mason's voice echoed from down the hallway. They found him standing in the smallest of the 3 bedrooms, his arms spread wide. "This room has the best light for drawing, and look, there are built-in shelves for all my art supplies." Jake appeared in the doorway of the room next door. "My room has a window that looks out at the backyard, so I can watch for interesting birds and insects. And my room is closest to your room," Tyler added, bouncing on his toes in the hallway, "so I can come find you if I have bad dreams." Cooper felt his throat tighten with emotion. They had already claimed their spaces, already imagined their lives in this house. Those all sound like excellent reasons to love this house. Patricia led them downstairs to the finished basement, which featured a large family room and a smaller area that could be used as an office. This space would be perfect for a playroom, and the office area could be ideal for working from home. "Or for Mama to study when she goes back to school," Jake observed seriously. Cooper looked at Penelope with surprise. "You're thinking about going back to school?" "I have been thinking about getting my nurse practitioner degree," she said, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. It would mean better opportunities and more flexibility in the long run, but it would also mean evening classes and clinical rotations, and I was not sure how to manage that with the boys. We would manage it together, Gooper said immediately. If that is what you want to do, we will make it work. Really, your goals are our goals now. As they walked through the backyard, Gooper could envision Saturday morning soccer games, summer barbecues, and the kind of family life he had never imagined for himself. The yard was large enough for the boys to run and play safely, with mature trees that would provide shade in the summer and a small garden area where they could plant flowers or vegetables. "I like this house," Tyler declared, climbing onto the wooden swing set that the current owners were leaving behind. "It has everything we need." "What do we need?" Gooper asked, curious about Tyler's 5-year-old perspective on home ownership. "A place for everyone to sleep, a kitchen for Mama to make pancakes, a yard for playing, and a living room big enough for all of us to watch movies together." "Those are very wise requirements," Gooper said. "What do you think, Jake?" "Mason, I think it is perfect," Mason said simply. "It feels happy here." Jake was more analytical in his assessment. "The house is structurally sound, the neighborhood seems quiet and safe, and it is close to our school. I think it meets all our practical needs." Patricia looked at Gooper and Penelope with raised eyebrows. "I have never had 5-year-olds conduct such a thorough evaluation of a property." "They are very thorough children," Penelope said proudly. As they drove home that afternoon, the boys chattered excitedly about which rooms would be theirs and how they would arrange their toys and furniture. Gooper found himself making mental notes about painting schedules and furniture shopping and all the practical details of combining 2 households into one. "So," Penelope said quietly, "are we really doing this? Buying the house, all of it, moving in together, getting married, becoming a real family?" Gooper reached over and took her hand. "We are already a real family, Penelope. We have been for weeks. The house and the marriage certificate will just make it official." "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too." "All of you, even when we argue about whose turn it is to do dishes. Especially then," Gooper said, bringing her hand to his lips. "Because that will mean we are building a real life together, with all the ordinary challenges and joys that come with it." From the back seat came the sound of 3 voices debating the relative merits of bunk beds versus regular beds, and whether they should get a dog to go with their new house, and what color they should paint the family room. Gooper listened to their excited chatter and thought about how completely his definition of success had changed. 3 months ago, success had meant quarterly profits and market share and recognition from industry publications. Now it meant Tyler's laughter echoing through empty rooms, Mason's artistic vision for making spaces beautiful, Jake's careful consideration of practical details, and Penelope's hand in his as they planned their future together. "Gooper," Penelope said softly, "thank you." "For what?" "For being exactly what we needed, even when we did not know we needed it." Gooper thought about that as they pulled into the parking lot of Penelope's apartment complex. 6 months ago, he had not known these 3 amazing children existed. Now he could not imagine his life without their constant questions, their infectious enthusiasm, their absolute trust that he would always be there for them. "Thank you," he said, "for letting me become part of this incredible family you created." As they climbed the stairs to the apartment, Tyler slipped his hand into Gooper's. "Daddy, when we move to our new house, will you still read us bedtime stories?" "Every single night," Gooper promised. "And will you still help us with art projects?" Mason asked. "Every single one." "And will you still answer my questions about how things work?" Jake wanted to know. "Every single question, even when I have to look up the answers." Penelope unlocked the apartment door, and they all tumbled inside. The boys immediately beginning to plan which of their current toys and books they would take to the new house. Cooper watched them with wonder, still amazed at how naturally he had slipped into this role, how right it felt to be their father. "Boys," Penelope called from the kitchen, "who wants to help make dinner?" "I do," came the enthusiastic chorus. As Cooper joined his family in the kitchen, helping small hands wash vegetables and listening to detailed reports about everything they had seen and learned that day, he realized that this was what happiness looked like. Not the momentary satisfaction of closing a business deal or the brief pleasure of material success, but the deep, lasting contentment that came from being exactly where he belonged, with exactly the people he was meant to love. "Welcome home," Penelope whispered, brushing a kiss against his cheek as she passed behind him. And Cooper realized that was exactly what this felt like. Not just the apartment, not even the new house they would soon buy together, but this life they were building. This was home. The morning of their move-in day dawned grey and drizzly, but nothing could dampen the excitement that filled the air as Cooper and Penelope directed the moving truck into the driveway of their new house. The boys had been awake since 5:30, too excited to sleep, and had spent the morning running between rooms and claiming spaces with the enthusiasm of explorers discovering new territory. "Daddy, look how big my new room is," Tyler called from upstairs, his voice echoing through the empty house. "And my art room has 3 windows!" Mason shouted from across the hall. Jake appeared at the top of the stairs with his serious expression and his notebook. "I have made a list of everything we need to do to make this house properly organized." Cooper climbed the stairs to examine Jake's list, which included items like label all the light switches and measure the closets for maximum storage efficiency and test all the door locks for security purposes. "This is a very thorough list," Cooper said admiringly. "Should we start working on these projects after we get all our furniture moved in?" "Yes, but we should prioritize by importance. Security first, then organization, then comfort improvements." "You are going to be an excellent project manager someday," Cooper told him, ruffling his hair. Downstairs, Penelope was directing the movers with the kind of calm efficiency that made Cooper fall in love with her a little bit more every day. She had color-coded labels for every box, detailed floor plans showing where each piece of furniture should go, and a timeline that would make his business assistant proud. "The boys' beds go upstairs, living room furniture in the front room, and kitchen boxes in the kitchen," she was explaining to the moving crew leader. "Everything is clearly labeled." "You missed your calling as a logistics coordinator," Cooper said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I learned from the master of organization," she replied, leaning back against him. "Living with you has taught me the value of detailed planning. Living with you has taught me the value of flexibility when detailed plans go completely off the rails." As if summoned by his words, Tyler came sliding down the hardwood stairs on his stomach, followed immediately by Mason, who was trying to surf down standing up. "Boys!" Penelope called. "What did we say about treating the new house with respect?" "Sorry, Mama," they chorused, but they were grinning as they said it. "The stairs are very slippery," Tyler explained helpfully. "We were conducting scientific experiments about friction and gravity." "Conduct your scientific experiments after the movers are finished and all the breakable things are safely put away," Cooper suggested. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of boxes, furniture, and 3 small boys who were determined to help with everything. Jake appointed himself supervisor of box placement. Mason began planning the artistic enhancement of each room, and Tyler served as official taste tester for the sandwiches Penelope had packed for lunch. By afternoon, the movers had finished and the house was filled with the organized chaos of a family in transition. Boxes were stacked in every room, furniture sat in temporary arrangements, and the refrigerator hummed with the first supplies for their new kitchen. "It actually looks like people live here," Penelope said, surveying the living room where Cooper had assembled a bookshelf while she unpacked boxes of children's books. "Happy people," Cooper added, watching Tyler and Mason build a fort out of empty moving boxes, while Jake carefully arranged his collection of science books on the new shelves. "Mama, can we order pizza for our first dinner in our new house?" Tyler asked, popping his head out of his cardboard fort. "I think pizza sounds perfect for our first family dinner here," Penelope agreed. While they waited for the food to arrive, Cooper found himself walking through each room of the house, marveling at how quickly it was becoming their home. Penelope's nursing textbooks were stacked on the kitchen counter next to his business magazines. The boy's artwork was already taped to the refrigerator, his suits hung in the master bedroom closet next to her scrubs and casual clothes. "No regrets?" Penelope asked, finding him standing in their bedroom doorway. "None whatsoever. You! Only that we waited so long to do this." "We needed time to do it right," Cooper said, pulling her close. "Time for the boys to get to know me, time for us to figure out how to be a family, time to make sure this was what we all wanted. And now we are sure. I have never been more sure of anything in my life." The pizza arrived just as the boys were getting restless from the excitement of the day. They spread blankets on the living room floor and had their first family picnic in their new house, complete with paper plates and the kind of relaxed chaos that Cooper was learning to associate with family life. "This is the best day ever," Mason announced around a bite of cheese pizza. "Even better than Zoo Day?" Cooper asked. "Even better than Zoo Day, because this is the day we became a real family in our real house." "We were already a real family," Jake pointed out with his usual precision. "This is just the day we got a house that is big enough for all of us." "What Jake means," Tyler explained patiently, "is that now we have enough space for everyone to have their own special places. But we can still all be together when we want to." Cooper looked around the living room at his sons sitting cross-legged on blankets, at Penelope curled up beside him with pizza sauce on her chin, at the boxes and furniture and general disorder that somehow felt more like home than his pristine downtown condo ever had. "You are absolutely right," he said. "This is the day our real life together begins." After dinner, they tackled the boys' bedrooms first, reasoning that everyone would sleep better if the children had familiar spaces set up. Cooper found himself assembling bunk beds, while Penelope organized clothes and the boys directed where each toy and book should go. "Daddy, will you check under my bed for monsters?" Tyler asked, as Cooper tucked him into his new room for the first time. "Thoroughly checked and completely monster-free," Cooper reported after a careful inspection. "What about in the closet?" "Also monster-free, but I did find an excellent hiding place for Christmas presents." Tyler giggled. "You are not supposed to tell me about the hiding places." "You are right. I will have to find a different hiding place now." As Cooper moved between rooms, saying goodnight to each boy in his new space, he felt a contentment that went deeper than any professional achievement he had ever experienced. This was what he had been building toward his entire life without knowing it. These bedtime conversations, these small hands reaching for his, these trusting faces that looked to him for comfort and security. "They settled in beautifully," Penelope said when he found her in their bedroom, unpacking clothes into the dresser they now shared. "Better than I did when I moved into my condo," Cooper admitted. "It took me months to feel at home there." "And how long did it take you to feel at home here?" Cooper thought about it seriously. "About 5 minutes after we walked through the front door with them." "Only 5 minutes." "The moment Tyler slid down the stairs and Mason started planning where to hang his artwork and Jake began making his organizational lists, I knew we belonged here." Penelope smiled and moved closer to him. "I love how much you love them. I love how much they love me back." even though I'm still figuring out how to be their father. You are not figuring it out, Gooper. You already are their father. You have been since the day you chose to show up for them consistently. As they got ready for bed in their new room, Gooper thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. 6 months ago, he had been a successful bachelor with no family ties. Now he was a father and a partner and a man who measured his success by the happiness of the 3 children sleeping down the hall and the woman preparing for bed beside him. "Penelope," he said quietly, as they settled under the covers, "I have something I want to ask you." "What is it?" "Will you marry me?" She turned to face him in the darkness, and even without being able to see her expression clearly, he could hear the smile in her voice. "I thought we had already decided to get married. We decided we wanted to build a life together. I'm officially asking you to be my wife. Are you proposing to me in our new bedroom on our first night in our new house? I am proposing to you in our home, surrounded by our children, at the beginning of our real life together. I cannot think of a more perfect time or place." "In that case," Penelope said, moving closer and kissing him softly, "yes, I will marry you, Gooper Everett, even though I still have a lot to learn about being a husband and a father, especially because you want to learn, and because you already love us exactly the way we are." As Gooper fell asleep that night with Penelope in his arms and his sons safe in their new rooms down the hall, he realized that this was what success really looked like. Not the accumulation of wealth or the achievement of professional goals, but the building of a family and a home filled with love and laughter, and the kind of happiness that grew stronger with every ordinary day they shared. Tomorrow, they would continue unpacking boxes and organizing rooms and settling into their new life together. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged, home. Planning a wedding while living with 3 energetic 5-year-old boys turned out to be an exercise in creative multitasking and flexible expectations. Gooper discovered this on a Saturday morning 2 weeks after they had moved into the house, when he and Penelope were trying to look at wedding venues online while Tyler practiced his soccer skills in the living room. Mason painted a watercolor masterpiece at the kitchen table, and Jake conducted a thorough inspection of their new home security system. "What about this one?" Penelope asked, turning her laptop screen toward Gooper to show him a picture of an elegant garden venue. "It has beautiful grounds for photos, and they can accommodate up to 150 guests. It looks perfect," Gooper said, ducking slightly as Tyler's soccer ball sailed past his head. "Tyler, buddy, maybe we could practice soccer outside." "But it is raining outside, and soccer is more fun when there are obstacles to navigate around," Tyler explained logically. "How about we make the obstacles smaller and safer?" Gooper suggested, quickly moving a lamp out of Tyler's trajectory. "Daddy, come look at this," Mason called from the kitchen table. "I am painting a picture of our wedding day." Gooper and Penelope walked over to examine Mason's artwork, which featured stick figures in wedding attire, standing under what appeared to be a rainbow with flowers floating in the air around them. "This is beautiful, Mason," Penelope said, sitting down beside him. "Tell me about the people in the picture." "That is you in your white dress, and that is Daddy in his fancy suit, and those are me and Jake and Tyler in our special clothes, and those are all the flowers, because weddings have lots of flowers." "What are we doing in the picture?" Gooper asked. "You are getting married, and everyone is happy, and there is cake afterward." "Those all sound like excellent wedding requirements," Gooper said seriously. "Happiness and cake are definitely essential." Jake appeared in the kitchen doorway with his notebook and his serious expression. "I have been researching wedding planning, and there are many important details that need to be considered." "Such as?" Penelope asked, trying not to smile. "Guest list management, menu selection, timeline coordination, weather contingency plans, and proper documentation of the event for future reference." Cooper exchanged a glance with Penelope. Jake, would you like to be our official wedding planning consultant? Jake's face lit up with pride. Really? I can help plan your wedding? We would be honored to have your assistance. What do you think our first priority should be? Jake consulted his notebook seriously. Date selection. We need to choose a date that works for everyone and allows adequate time for preparation. When do you think we should get married? Penelope asked. Soon, Tyler said immediately, bouncing his soccer ball against the wall. I want to wear a fancy suit and eat wedding cake. But not too soon, Mason added thoughtfully. We need time to make everything beautiful. Jake was more analytical. I think we should consider seasonal weather patterns, school schedule conflicts, and venue availability. Also, Mama, did you not say you wanted to lose 5 pounds before the wedding? Penelope laughed. Jake, I did not realize you were listening to that conversation. I listen to all conversations. It helps me understand family dynamics and planning processes. Cooper found himself thinking about how much his life had changed since discovering his sons. 6 months ago, wedding planning would have meant hiring professionals and delegating details to assistants. Now it meant consulting with 3 5-year-old boys who had very specific opinions about cake flavors and flower arrangements. What if we planned the wedding for early summer? Cooper suggested. That would give us time to organize everything properly. The weather should be nice, and it would be after the boys finish kindergarten. June weddings are very popular, Jake observed. We should probably start looking at venues soon to ensure availability. And we need to think about who we want to invite, Penelope added. My parents, my aunt and uncle, some friends from work and nursing school. And Linda from Daddy's office, Tyler chimed in. She has been asking to meet us for weeks. And Miss Jennifer from school, Mason suggested. She helped me make the card for Mama, so she is practically family. And David from Daddy's company, Jake added. He seems like an important person in Daddy's professional life. Cooper listened to his sons planning their wedding guest list with the same serious consideration they brought to everything else, and he felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the coffee he was drinking. You know what? He said suddenly. I think we should let you boys help plan this whole wedding. Who better to help us celebrate becoming a family than the 3 people who made us a family in the first place? Really? Mason asked, his eyes shining with excitement. We can help with everything. Everything age-appropriate, Penelope clarified. You can help choose flowers and cake flavors and music, but Mama and Daddy will handle the complicated grown-up details. Can we help pick your dress, Mama? Tyler asked. I think you should wear a dress with sparkles. I think sparkles might be a little much for a daytime wedding, Penelope said gently. But I would love your input on what kind of dress would be pretty. Can we help pick Daddy's suit? Jake wanted to know. Navy blue is a classic choice that photographs well and is appropriate for most wedding venues. Cooper stared at his 5-year-old son in amazement. Jake, where did you learn about wedding photography and suit selection? I have been doing research on the computer. Wedding planning involves many complex decisions, and I wanted to be prepared to offer useful advice. You are definitely prepared, Cooper said, shaking his head in wonder. I think you might be more qualified to plan this wedding than we are. The rest of the morning was spent creating lists and discussing possibilities while the rain continued to fall outside. Mason contributed artistic vision for decorations. Tyler provided enthusiasm for all food-related decisions. And Jake offered practical logistics management that would have impressed Cooper's business partners. I have never planned a wedding before, Penelope confessed when the boys had moved on to other activities, and she and Cooper were alone in the kitchen. Neither have I, Cooper admitted, but I think we have excellent consultants. They are so excited about this, it makes it feel more real somehow. More real than moving in together and buying a house. Different real. Like we are not just deciding to be together, but celebrating it with everyone we care about. Gooper pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. I want to celebrate it. I want everyone to know how happy I am to be marrying you and becoming the official father of those 3 incredible boys. Official father, Penelope repeated softly. You want to adopt them? If you are comfortable with that, I want my name on their birth certificates. I want to be their legal father as well as their actual father. Gooper, yes, of course. Yes, they would love that. So would I. As they stood together in their kitchen, listening to the sounds of their children playing in the next room, Gooper thought about how completely his understanding of happiness had changed. A year ago, happiness had been closing a big deal or seeing his company's stock price rise. Now it was the sound of Tyler's laughter, the sight of Mason's artistic creations covering their refrigerator, the feeling of Jake's small hand in his as they discussed the day's plans. I love our life, he said quietly, even when it is chaotic and loud and there are soccer balls flying through the living room, especially then. Good, Penelope said, smiling up at him. Because I have a feeling life with 3 boys is only going to get more chaotic as they get older. Bring it on, Gooper said, kissing her softly. I cannot wait to see what kind of chaos we create together. From the living room came the sound of Tyler teaching Mason the proper technique for indoor soccer, while Jake provided detailed commentary on safety protocols and furniture protection strategies. Gooper listened to their voices and realized that this chaos was exactly what he had been searching for his entire life without knowing it. Mama! Daddy! Tyler called. Come see our new game. It is called Wedding Soccer, and everyone has to wear fancy clothes while they play. Wedding Soccer, Penelope called back. That sounds very sophisticated, and potentially very messy, Gooper added, but he was already heading toward the living room to see what creative game his sons had invented, because this was his life now, and he would not trade it for anything. The phone call came at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks before their wedding. Gooper had been reviewing quarterly reports in his home office while Penelope graded papers at the kitchen table, both of them enjoying the quiet after getting the boys settled for the night. When Cooper's phone rang with an unknown number, his first instinct was to ignore it. Late-night business calls were usually emergencies he preferred to handle during normal hours, but something made him answer. Hello, this is Gooper Everett. Mr. Everett, this is Dr. Patricia Williams from Riverside Children's Hospital. I am calling about Tyler Benson. Cooper's blood turned to ice. What happened? Is he all right? He was brought in about 20 minutes ago by ambulance. He fell from playground equipment at a friend's house and hit his head. He is conscious and stable, but we need his parents here immediately. We are on our way, Gooper said, already moving toward the kitchen where Penelope was grading papers. The look on his face must have conveyed the urgency, because she immediately put down her pen. What is wrong? She asked, standing up quickly. Tyler is at the hospital. He fell and hit his head. They said he is conscious and stable, but we need to get there now. Penelope went completely pale. Oh God, is he... He is going to be fine, Gooper said firmly, pulling her close for a quick hug. But we need to go. What about Jake and Mason? I will call my aunt. She can be here in 20 minutes. I will call her while you get your things. We cannot wait 20 minutes. Gooper was already dialing Linda, his assistant, who had become a trusted family friend over the past few months. She answered on the second ring, alert despite the late hour. Linda, I need a huge favor. Tyler is at the hospital, and Penelope and I need to get there now. Can you come stay with Jake and Mason? Of course. I will be there in 15 minutes. How is Tyler? Conscious and stable, according to the doctor. I will call you with updates. While they waited for Linda to arrive, Cooper and Penelope moved through their house like people in a nightmare, gathering keys and wallets and jackets, while trying not to wake the other boys. Cooper found himself checking on Jake and Mason twice, as if reassuring himself that they were safe and sleeping peacefully. "What if he has a concussion?" Penelope whispered, as they stood in the boys' doorway. "What if there is internal bleeding? What if—" "Penelope!" Cooper turned her to face him, taking her hands in his. "Tyler is strong and healthy, and he is at one of the best children's hospitals in the state. He's going to be fine. You do not know that. No, I do not know that, but I know that we are going to get through this together. Whatever happens, that is what families do." Linda arrived exactly 15 minutes after Cooper had called her, efficient and calm, and carrying a bag that suggested she was prepared to stay as long as necessary. "Go," she said simply. "I will take care of Jake and Mason. Call me when you know something." The drive to the hospital took forever and no time at all. Cooper found himself gripping the steering wheel tightly while Penelope sat beside him, silent and tense. He wanted to offer reassurance, but he was too scared himself to find the right words. "I should have been there," Penelope said suddenly. "It was a play date at the Morrisons' house. I should have stayed." "Penelope, stop. You could not have prevented this. Kids fall. It is what they do. But Tyler is my responsibility. Tyler is our responsibility, our son, and we are going to take care of him together." When they reached the hospital, Cooper felt a strange sense of déjà vu. This was where he had first seen his sons, where his life had changed completely. Now he was returning in circumstances he had never imagined. They found Tyler in a treatment room in the pediatric emergency department, looking small and pale against the white hospital bed. But his eyes were open and alert, and he managed a weak smile when he saw them. "Mama? Daddy?" he said, his voice smaller than usual. "I fell off the big slide." "I know, baby," Penelope said, immediately going to his side and taking his hand. "How do you feel?" "My head hurts, and I am sleepy. But the nice doctor said I am going to be okay." Cooper positioned himself on Tyler's other side, relief flooding through him at seeing his son awake and talking. "That is exactly what we wanted to hear." Dr. Williams appeared in the doorway, a kind-faced woman who looked to be around Penelope's age. "Mr. and Mrs. Everett," Cooper said automatically. "This is Penelope, and I am Cooper." "Tyler has a mild concussion," Dr. Williams explained. "The CT scan shows no signs of internal bleeding or skull fracture. He will need to be monitored closely for the next 24 hours, but I expect a full recovery." "What does monitoring mean?" Penelope asked, her nursing training taking over. "Wake him every 2 hours tonight to check his responses. Watch for signs of confusion or excessive sleepiness. Bring him back immediately if he vomits or complains of severe headache. Standard concussion protocol." "Can we take him home?" Cooper asked. "In about an hour, once we finish our observation period and review the discharge instructions." As Dr. Williams left to prepare their paperwork, Cooper and Penelope settled in for the wait. Tyler dozed fitfully, waking periodically to ask questions or request water. Cooper found himself studying every expression on his son's face, looking for signs of distress or confusion. "Daddy," Tyler said during one of his wakeful moments, "are you scared?" Cooper considered lying, then decided on honesty. "Yes, buddy, I was very scared when I heard you were hurt. Being a parent means worrying about the people you love. But I am okay now, right? You are okay now. And Mama and I are going to take very good care of you while you get completely better. Will Jake and Mason be worried about me? They are sleeping right now, but we will tell them in the morning that you are fine. They will probably want to take extra good care of you for a few days." Tyler smiled sleepily. "I like when people take care of me." "Good. because you are going to get a lot of extra attention for the next few days." When they finally made it home at 2 in the morning, Linda was waiting with updates on the other boys and offers to stay and help with overnight monitoring. Cooper gratefully accepted her offer to sleep on the couch, knowing that having an extra adult in the house would allow him and Penelope to take turns checking on Tyler without leaving Jake and Mason unsupervised. "Thank you," Cooper said to Linda as she settled into the living room with blankets and pillows. "I do not know what we would have done without you tonight." "This is what family does," Linda said simply. "You would do the same for me." As Cooper and Penelope got Tyler settled in their bedroom, where they could monitor him more easily, Cooper thought about Linda's words. This was what family did. Not just the family created by blood or marriage, but the family created by choice and care and showing up when it mattered most. "I love you," he whispered to Penelope as they prepared to take the first monitoring shift. "I love you too. And Cooper, thank you for being exactly what we needed tonight. Thank you for letting me be Tyler's father in every way that matters." As they settled in for a long night of 2-hour wake-up calls, Cooper realized that this crisis had changed something fundamental between them. There had been no question about who would handle what, no discussion about responsibilities or roles. They had simply moved as a team, united in their love for Tyler and their commitment to his well-being. "Mama! Daddy!" Tyler's sleepy voice came from the bed between them. "I am glad you are both here." "We will always be here when you need us," Cooper promised. "That is what parents do." And as Tyler drifted back to sleep, safe between the two people who loved him most in the world, Cooper understood that this was what commitment really meant. Not just the promise to love someone when everything was perfect, but the choice to show up consistently when life was scary and uncertain, and all you could do was hold on to each other and hope for the best. Tyler's recovery became a family project that brought out the protective instincts in everyone, including his two brothers. By Wednesday morning, Jake had appointed himself chief medical officer, creating detailed charts to track Tyler's symptoms and recovery progress. Mason had established himself as chief entertainment officer, producing a steady stream of artwork and stories designed to keep his brother's spirits up during his mandatory rest period. "Tyler cannot have too much screen time because it might make his headache worse," Jake explained seriously to anyone who would listen. "But he can have quiet activities like coloring and listening to stories." "I made him a Get Well book," Mason announced, presenting Tyler with a hand-bound collection of drawings that told the story of a brave little boy who fell from a very tall slide, but got better because he had the best family in the world to take care of him. Cooper watched his sons take care of each other with a mixture of pride and amazement. He had worried that Jake and Mason might be frightened by Tyler's accident, but instead they had risen to the occasion with the kind of natural compassion that made his heart swell with love. "You are very lucky boys," Penelope observed as she helped Tyler with a jigsaw puzzle, while Jake read aloud from a book about space exploration and Mason worked on a new drawing at the kitchen table. "Why are we lucky?" Tyler asked, carefully fitting a puzzle piece into place. "Because you have brothers who love you so much that they want to take care of you when you are not feeling well. And we have a mama and daddy who came to the hospital in the middle of the night to make sure we were okay," Jake added without looking up from his book. "That is what families do," Mason said matter-of-factly. "We take care of each other." Cooper, who was working from home to help with Tyler's monitoring, paused in his review of contracts to listen to this conversation. 3 months ago, these boys had never had a father figure in their lives. Now they talked about family care and protection as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Daddy," Tyler said, "will you always come if we need you, even if it is really late at night?" "Always," Cooper said without hesitation. No matter where I am or what I'm doing, if you need me, I will come. What if you are in an important business meeting? Then I will leave the important business meeting. What if you are on an airplane? Then I will tell the pilot to turn the airplane around. Tyler giggled. You cannot tell airplane pilots what to do. You would be surprised what you can do when someone you love needs help, Gooper said seriously. That afternoon, while Tyler napped and the other boys played quietly in their rooms, Gooper and Penelope sat together in the kitchen, both of them still processing the emotions of the previous night. I keep thinking about what could have happened, Penelope said quietly. What if he had been hurt more seriously? What if we had lost him? But we did not lose him, Gooper said firmly. He is going to be completely fine. I know. But Gooper, what if something happens to me? You would not have any legal rights to make medical decisions for the boys. The hospital last night assumed we were married, but we are not. Not yet. Gooper had been thinking the same thing. What are you suggesting? I think we should move up the wedding date. I know we planned for June, but I want to make this official. I want you to be their legal father as soon as possible. Are you sure? We have already sent invitations, made deposits on vendors. I am sure. Gooper, last night when I saw Tyler in that hospital bed, the only thing I could think about was how grateful I was that you were there with me, how much I needed you to be their father officially, not just in our hearts. Gooper reached across the table and took her hands. When do you want to get married? As soon as we can arrange it. Next week, if possible. Next week it is. The rest of the week passed in a blur of phone calls to vendors, explanations to family and friends about the change in plans, and preparations for a much smaller, more intimate ceremony than they had originally planned. Instead of the garden venue with 150 guests, they would be married in their own backyard with just immediate family and closest friends. It will be more meaningful this way, Penelope said, as they finalized the last-minute arrangements. Just the people who matter most to us. Jake, Mason, and Tyler threw themselves into wedding preparations with the same enthusiasm they brought to everything else. Jake created a detailed timeline for the ceremony. Mason designed decorations using flowers from their garden, and Tyler appointed himself official ring bearer and practiced walking in a straight line while carrying a small pillow. Are you nervous about getting married? Jake asked Gooper on Friday evening as they assembled chairs in the backyard. Not nervous about marrying your mother, Gooper said honestly, but maybe a little nervous about the ceremony itself. What if I say something wrong, or trip, or forget my lines? Daddy, you know how to talk to people. You do it for your job every day. This is different, though. This is the most important conversation I will ever have with your mother. Just tell her you love her and you want to take care of her and us forever, Tyler suggested, bouncing on his toes despite his recent injury. That is what you tell us when we have bad dreams. And tell her you are excited to be our real daddy, Mason added, because that is important too. Gooper looked at his three sons, who were offering marriage advice with the same serious consideration they brought to playground rules and bedtime story selection. You know what, he said, I think you boys have given me the best wedding advice anyone could ask for. Really? Tyler asked proudly. Really? Because that is exactly what I want to say to your mother, that I love her, and I want to take care of all of you forever, and I'm excited to be your real daddy. See, Jake said with satisfaction, wedding planning is just about being honest about your feelings and intentions. As Gooper tucked his sons into bed that night, he realized that tomorrow would mark the official beginning of their life as a legally recognized family. In less than 24 hours, he would be a married man and the adoptive father of 3 amazing boys. Sweet dreams, he whispered to each of them. Tomorrow is going to be a very special day. The day you become our real daddy, Tyler said sleepily. I have been your real daddy since the day I met you, Gooper said. Tomorrow is just the day everyone else gets to know it officially. As he turned off the lights and headed back downstairs to Penelope, Gooper thought about how much his life had changed since that first day at the hospital. He had started that day as a successful bachelor with no family ties. Tomorrow, he would wake up as a husband and father with 3 children who depended on him and a wife who loved him exactly as he was. Ready for tomorrow? Penelope asked when he found her in their bedroom, hanging up her wedding dress. More than ready, Gooper said, pulling her close. I've been ready since the day I fell in love with all of you. All of us. All of you. I did not just fall in love with you, Penelope. I fell in love with the whole package. You and Jake and Mason and Tyler and the life we are building together. Even the chaos and the noise and the constant questions about how everything works. Especially the chaos and the noise and the constant questions, Gooper said, kissing her softly. I would not change a single thing about our beautiful, chaotic, perfect family. The morning of their wedding dawned bright and clear, with the kind of golden sunshine that made everything look like it had been touched by magic. Gooper woke up early, partly from excitement and partly because Tyler had crawled into their bed sometime during the night and was now sleeping sideways across the foot of the mattress, his feet firmly planted against Cooper's ribs. Good morning, husband, Penelope whispered, her eyes sparkling with happiness and anticipation. Good morning, wife, Gooper whispered back, the words feeling strange and wonderful on his tongue. Are you ready for this? I have never been more ready for anything in my life. They were interrupted by the sound of feet thundering down the hallway, followed by Jake's voice calling, It is wedding day! Everyone wake up! It is wedding day! Tyler sat bolt upright from his position across their feet. Wedding day, I get to carry the rings. And I get to throw flower petals, Mason announced, appearing in their bedroom doorway already fully dressed despite the early hour. And I get to make sure everything happens on schedule, Jake added, consulting the small notebook he had been carrying for the past week. Gooper and Penelope looked at each other and started laughing. I think our sons are more excited about this wedding than we are, Penelope said. Is that possible? Gooper asked, pulling both her and Tyler into a family hug that was quickly joined by Jake and Mason. The morning passed in a blur of preparations, last-minute vendor confirmations, and 3 boys who were so excited they could barely contain themselves. Cooper's business partner, David, arrived early to help with setup, followed by Linda and her husband, then Penelope's parents and aunt and uncle, and finally, a small gathering of friends and colleagues who had become their extended family. You look nervous, David observed as he helped Gooper adjust his tie in their bedroom mirror. Do I? Like you are about to give the most important presentation of your life. I am, Gooper said simply. I am about to promise the 4 most important people in my life that I will love them and take care of them forever. 4 people. Penelope and the boys, they are a package deal, and I would not have it any other way. You know, David said thoughtfully, I have been your business partner for 5 years, and I have never seen you as focused or as happy as you have been since you found out about those kids. They changed everything for me. They showed me what was really important, which is, Gooper looked out the bedroom window at the backyard where guests were gathering, where his 3 sons were carefully arranging flower petals in small baskets, where Penelope was laughing with her mother as they made last-minute adjustments to the simple arch they had decorated with flowers from their garden. Love, he said simply. Family. Building something that lasts beyond quarterly reports and stock prices. That is a pretty fundamental shift in priorities. The best shift I have ever made. 20 minutes later, Cooper found himself standing under the flower arch in his backyard, looking out at the small gathering of people who mattered most to him and Penelope. Jake stood beside him in his role as best man, looking serious and important in his navy blue suit. Tyler and Mason were positioned at the back of the small aisle, ready to walk forward with rings and flower petals. "You ready for this, Daddy?" Jake whispered. "More than ready," Cooper whispered back. When the music started and Tyler began his careful walk down the aisle carrying the ring pillow, Cooper felt his throat tighten with emotion. Tyler took his role seriously, walking slowly and carefully, his tongue poking out slightly in concentration. Behind him, Mason scattered flower petals with artistic flair, making sure to create beautiful patterns on the ground. But when Penelope appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in a simple white dress that made her look like sunshine personified, Cooper forgot about everything else. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was his partner, his love, the mother of his children, and the woman who had shown him what it meant to live with his heart wide open. "Hi," she said softly when she reached him. "Hi," he said back, taking her hands and marveling at how right this moment felt. The ceremony itself was brief and perfect. They had written their own vows, and when it came time for Cooper to speak, he looked not just at Penelope, but at all three boys, who were watching with rapt attention. "Penelope," he began, his voice strong and clear. "6 months ago, I thought I knew what success looked like. I thought happiness came from achievement and wealth and professional recognition. Then I found you and Jake and Mason and Tyler, and I learned that real success is measured in bedtime stories and soccer games and the trust of 3 little boys who called me Daddy." He paused, swallowing hard against the emotion in his throat. "I promise to love you not just when life is easy and beautiful, but when it is scary and uncertain, and we are all learning as we go. I promise to be the father our boys deserve and the partner you can depend on. I promise to choose this family every single day, in big decisions and small moments, for the rest of my life." When Penelope spoke her vows, her voice was steady, but her eyes were bright with tears. "Cooper, you came into our lives like the answer to prayers I did not even know I was saying. You showed Jake that curiosity and intelligence are gifts to be celebrated. You taught Mason that his artistic vision is valuable and important. You proved to Tyler that he is worthy of a father's unconditional love. And you showed me that I could trust someone else with the hearts of my children." She squeezed his hands tighter. "I promise to love you with the same fierce protection I have always given our boys. I promise to build dreams with you and support your goals and remind you every day that you are exactly the man we needed. I promise to choose this family, this love, this beautiful life we are creating together." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife and invited Cooper to kiss his bride, the cheer that went up from their small audience was led by 3 enthusiastic 5-year-old boys who had just gained a father officially and permanently. "We did it," Penelope whispered against his lips. "We did it," Cooper agreed, pulling her close as their family and friends surrounded them with congratulations and joy. As they celebrated with cake and laughter and the kind of happiness that bubbles up from deep contentment, Cooper found himself standing back for a moment to take in the scene. His sons were showing off their wedding clothes to anyone who would look. Penelope was glowing as she accepted hugs and well wishes. Their small backyard was filled with the people who had supported them and celebrated with them. "No regrets?" David asked, appearing beside him with a piece of wedding cake. "Only that I waited 35 years to find them," Cooper said honestly. "And now I get to spend the rest of my life being Tyler's daddy and Mason's daddy and Jake's daddy and Penelope's husband. I cannot imagine anything better than that." As the afternoon wore on and their guests began to head home, Cooper found himself helping clean up with the same contentment he brought to every family task these days. This was his life now. Shared responsibilities, group decision-making, and the kind of teamwork that made every job easier and more enjoyable. "What are you thinking about?" Penelope asked, finding him stacking chairs in the gathering twilight. "I am thinking about how complete this feels, how right. Even though we still have dishes to wash and decorations to put away and 3 boys to get ready for bed. Especially because of that," Cooper said, setting down the chair and pulling her into his arms. "This is what I want, Penelope, the ordinary moments and the special occasions and everything in between." "Good," she said, smiling up at him. "Because this is exactly what you are getting." From inside the house came the sound of their 3 sons arguing about whose turn it was to choose the bedtime story, and Cooper realized that this was what happiness sounded like. Not the quiet satisfaction of a business deal well done, but the noisy, chaotic, absolutely perfect sound of a family who loved each other completely. "Come on, husband," Penelope said, taking his hand. "Let us go put our children to bed." "Our children," Cooper repeated, and the words filled him with the kind of joy that started in his chest and spread all the way to his fingertips. As they walked toward the house together, toward the 3 boys who were waiting for them to arbitrate bedtime negotiations and read stories and tuck them in safely for the night, Cooper thought about the man he had been 6 months ago. That man had been successful and wealthy and completely alone. This man was successful and wealthy and completely surrounded by love. It was no contest which version of himself he preferred. "Daddy! Mama! Come help us decide about the story!" Tyler called from upstairs. "Coming!" Cooper called back and realized that this simple word contained everything he needed to know about his future. Whatever his family needed, wherever they called from, whatever time of day or night, his answer would always be the same. He was coming. He would always be coming, because this was where he belonged. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.